Hello, everyone, and welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl number 65, because we have the numbers back under control. Crazy mad things, they do whatever they wish. For this episode, we're going to do a 360-degree tournament review of the recently run Borac Bowl. So we have the tournament organizer here, he is present. That you've met before, it's the lovely Tom Loyn, up diagonally up from me here if you're watching, or vocally, I'm sure he'll say hello if you're listening. Hi, Tom.
Hello, PC. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I've had a lovely week, mostly doing gardening, oddly, which I don't enjoy, but the results are nice to look at now that it's finished. How's your week been?
It's not been great. I think I was saying earlier on, I've been quite unwell actually. So I spent the last 3 or 4 days with fevers mostly going up and down, and then decided I'd arranged a long time ago to meet a good friend called Hugo, who's a DBL player. So DBL listeners will know Hugo very well.
Mm.
And I'd arranged to meet him for lunch on Thursday, and then had an SBL match in the evening on Thursday. So I felt a bit better on Thursday and thought, you know what, I'm going to take a risk, go into London because I haven't seen Hugo for ages, and try and do two of those social engagements slash, an actual Blood Bowl match. And then felt absolutely horrific on Friday after a couple of bottles of wine and some whiskies. So not unsurprising, and just have felt horrendous ever since. So I'm just coming back off the end of it now.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's good. I mean, the lovely Hugo, who I'd love to have on the show at some time, recent winner of the top stunty at Threadbowl.
Different Hugo actually.
Oh, different Hugo.
Yeah,
Ah, well, then
different
this
Hugo.
Hugo I may not
Yeah,
like at
that
all. Who
Hugo
knows?
was less lovely, but yeah,
Okay.
no,
Well,
I'm
your
joking.
Hugo can
I
rot in
don't equally
hell then. It's the other Hugo I like. Obviously Tom is responsible for Borac, so it's all him, 100% his fault. And I thought, what a really interesting opportunity because I happened to notice that going to Borac and directly above me is Andy P. Hello, Andy. We've recently met. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, good evening. Yes, met you a couple of times. Yeah, sort of saw you at Borac and yesterday up
Yeah,
in
I mean,
Harlow.
so a huge thank you for coming on. I realise you're fairly new to the Blood Bowl world, and I thought that'd be a really interesting perspective. We did. We yesterday went to GriffCon and Griff
That's
Bowl
right. Yeah.
in Harlow, which is a benighted small outpost of Essex.
Mm.
A town I've worked in a few times, and lovely, lovely people, but yeah, very challenging place. And they put on a lovely convention. I thought the local game
Yeah.
store had the whole place, this whole council building out, and a lovely hall to have the games in.
Yeah.
The Blood Bowl went horrifically for me, but I did win
And me
an entire Age of Sigmar
likewise.
box
Yeah.
set, which was nice. Your Blood Bowl also,
But yeah,
was it?
no, I sort of I mean, lost all three 1-0. That's what you call consistent.
Yes.
But yeah, just had sort of had fun, sort of just playing, rolling dice,
And
and
that was your third ever
meeting new
tournament?
people. Yeah, so that was my third. Borac was my second.
And the
And I've
first one
done one.
wasn't NAF sanctioned, was it? You went rogue.
No. Borat was my first sort of NAF. I thought because I'd booked in for GriffCon, and obviously that was NAF, so I had to sort of sign up to NAF for that, and decided because I teach, so I thought I've got sort of summer holidays now. Let's see if I can get a bit more sort of Blood Bowl in, get some more games in, and and then sort of found Borac Bowl and sort of gave that a whirl.
Yes, and are now on the London Tournament Series and server. So
Yeah,
other people
yeah.
will be competing for your weekend attention if you let them. You're obviously new to tournaments. We've discussed that. You went to up
Mm,
to Harlow and did a non-NAF event, and now obviously Borac and Griff Bowl back to back, 2 weeks running. But
I know.
you can't be new to Blood Bowl. So where's your Blood Bowl journey begin?
Oh, I mean, I really started sort of just before Chris. I mean, properly just before Christmas. I mean, I sort of always sort of known, about sort of Blood Bowl, even from the days when I was sort of at school many years ago. But it was mainly when I think my first interest came about when Games Workshop released the Snotlings,
Oh,
and sort of way back then, and saw them, loved them, thought they looked great, sort of bought them, but of course added to the sort of the pile of shame, um, but and they've just sort of sat there, and then been getting back more into sort of gaming, up in sort of with the Welling Gamers up in sort of Welling Garden City,
mhm.
and they were sort of on their chat. They were sort of, I think they do like a yearly league, which sort of runs from sort of January. through to summer, and they're sort of talking about sort of the new league that was starting in January, and I thought that would be a great opportunity to sort of have a go at sort of actually probably sort of try sort of Blood Bowl, because sort of my jam was sort of Guild Ball.
Okay.
I was and that was I absolutely loved Guild Ball.
I was going to ask, so
every
you come from other
Tuesday.
gaming systems rather than from the online world or anything?
Yeah. Sort of did War Machine, went to Guild Ball. Sort of then it was wasn't being supported by sort of Steam Forge, and I didn't really sort of find sort of another game to sort of get sort of stuck into. I sort of doubt. I think fair to say I sort of dabbled in sort of 40k for a bit, but it just wasn't for me.
That's good for 13.
And then they so I thought okay, let's give Blood Bowl a go. Great models. It just seems like a completely sort of insane game. Sort of the fact that it's in this parallel, this sort of different sort of universe in the old Warhammer world, and sort of based on a sort of American football, and you got goblins and humans. Just
goblins with chainsaws playing American football is how I would describe it.
And sort of signed up. I had an intro game sort of just before Christmas, and that was it. January, my second game of Blood Bowl was my first league game.
Fantastic.
I've done.
And did you put Snotlings into the league?
No, Nurgle.
Okay.
Which I mean, I know. Yeah, I mean they are. I know they're. Yeah, they are not sort of the easiest teams, but I love the look of them. I like sort of looking at the Age of Sigmar stuff. All of that. Death Guard. I just started painting them up, and just really enjoyed painting them. And I think I got to a point where mentally, it playing the game, playing with painted miniatures sort of keeps me painting. So I sort of love that, and it's great. Yeah, I mean, it's great that you can. I love the aesthetics of the game. Just like the wall book and the illustrations. Just that sort of cartoon thing. Just remind you, it's a insane game. It's fun. And I love the models.
It does
and
surprise
just
me. I have very little time for these people that describe it as something hateful that they hate doing.
I just say it's fun. I've just found it fun, and it got with the league, got to play and to know people that I've never met. Been learning the game, big sort of learning curve, and then started. I thought, okay, let's have a go, play some tournaments, get some more games in, meet some more people, and then sort of into the world of sort of NAF.
So you've now played 9 tournament games and probably about a dozen league
Yeah.
games. So maybe 20 games?
Yeah, sort of 10 and sort of just a couple of sort of ad hoc games.
What's been your favourite and least favourite races to face with your Nurgle?
Orcs. I played Orcs twice yesterday. That was just a slog. Playing against Nurgle with that was just a complete grind fest in the sort of.
Maybe you're the problem.
Oh yeah, yeah. And who was it? I think at Borak I played. Paul were fun to play against, and then had a couple of games against Undead. They were sort of fun, and oh god, they were quick. I think yeah. So Undead are a grind to play against as well, but Nurgle. I don't want to play against them again. But yeah, but
okay.
no, I've had fun. Yes, I've had good fun, and I'm not sort of discouraged, and looking forward to doing a league with the Welling War Gamers again sort of next year. Yeah.
And I'm presuming the answer to my next question is going to be positive, but overall, whilst we're going to talk about all sorts of aspects of it, have you been enjoying the tournament experience of Blood Bowl so far?
Yeah. Sort of. I have to admit, I was sort of nervous going, to Borat. Sort of, this fact, sort of like a first NAF tournament, and feel like it's in my head felt like it was. It's almost like NAF is this sort of secret society of elite sort of Blood Bowl players,
No,
but
they've let Tom in.
but just like when I've
And then
sort
you
of,
walked in and saw this idiot up at the front and thought, you know what, it'll be fine.
Probably going to be okay.
even like when I sort of turned up and just having a chat with people I've never met before, really warm and welcoming. 3 fun games.
Good.
It's just the atmosphere was just
Well,
great.
like I said, we're going to micro talk about lots of aspects of that. So from now, let me move on because we haven't said hello yet to another new face on the show. Some may know him as salontiger, some may know him as that beautiful man on the London scene, possibly the second best beard in Blood Bowl. Say hello to Jim. Hello.
Hello, Dave, Andy, Tom, and listeners. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invite.
It's lovely to have you on. Now, you are here because if we're doing a proper 360 review, and someone who's never had a proper job in the chat has asked what that is, I suspect most people that have had proper jobs have heard the term. It's where you look at someone's performance from every aspect. Their manager, their peers, their underlings. So normally a review is from the boss downwards. The idea of a 360 is everyone talks about everything with all feedback. Okay. So rather than just sort of all humiliate Tom by giving him feedback, I thought we'd do Borak Bowl for feedback. So both Tom will give feedback to us as players, both from an experience point of view and from a junior point of view. But for Jim, also as Tom's boss, because you're here with two faces, aren't you?
Many faces, many faces. The one that's Tom's boss can't decide whether he's delighted by that or absolutely terrified by the thought of being Tom's boss.
You are the regional rep for the NAF, the Secret Society.
Yep, for London, absolutely. And also run the London Tournament Series.
Yes, so by his boss, I mean you are responsible for deciding if his tournaments make it into the series, checking they're up to the standard, all that sort of stuff. And obviously as a NAF rep, you're sort of halfway between the Mafia and the Avon lady. I always think is the sort of cross there.
Yeah, much more on the side of the lipstick, but yeah, absolutely.
So you're the one punting out the dice and handing out the special tokens.
Yeah, and come the Euro Open, I'll be the one picking up the trophies to give out at the end of the year for first, second. I can't remember if I do a third, but best ante as well in the London Tournament Series. So
fantastic.
More plastic.
So let's talk about the NAF bit first. How did you get involved with the NAF? Why did you decide you wanted power within the cabal?
Well, I didn't really decide I wanted power. Do you mind if I go back a little bit further and call out the start of my Blood Bowl journey first?
Yeah.
And I'll get to
I should
the
have
NAF,
asked. It's rude of me not to.
Yeah, no. I'll step in and do your job for you, Dave. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So I started. There's a legend in the London scene called Mark Hampson, who founded the DBL, which is the biggest of the London leagues, and he stepped back from running the main league and started running something called the UU. So a league that still runs today, now run by Dom, but focuses entirely on beginners to the game. So I was a 40k player as well, and I'd started going to team tournaments because team tournaments, as you talked about in the Blood Bowl context, are a great way of spending time with your friends and having fun.
Yeah.
But I found I was having fun away from the table, and at the table I was facing people rolling buckets of dice, and a bit like that scene in Blackadder Goes Forth, where General Melchett was sweeping things off the table to represent the dead. My models were just disappearing, and they were saying, "Oh, well, I re-roll those two that aren't dead yet. No, now they're dead," and it was just no fun whatsoever. And I went back to the club on a Monday night, and on the other side of the bar,
just
while
as
I was
a quick
playing,
aside, I've always wanted to go to a 40k tournament and measure everyone's rulers. In my heart, I know there's someone who's had a custom ruler made so that they can change distances. I just know there is.
Well, you know the story of the dice in the urinal.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff does happen at 40k tournaments, and yeah, there's some well-known cheats who accidentally nudge their models with their elbow because it's not a grid system, just to get them a bit closer in charge range. And
that's why I love it.
Yeah. So I went back to the club on a Monday night. We play at the Seven Dials Club, and I was playing 40k, and on the other side of the room, these guys were having fun and shouting casualty and getting drunk, and I thought I'm going to do that instead. So I started playing Blood Bowl in 2021. Went to my first tournament later that year, which was Backbreaker. We've got a backbreaker coming up in September.
We
Sign
do,
up,
yes,
folks. It'll
at
be
the Seven
great fun.
Dials in Covent
At
Garden.
the Seven Dials. About 50 players signed up at the moment and room for 20 or 30 more. I'm sure, Dave, you will kindly put a link in the show notes.
I definitely will. Backbreaker is one of the legendary big tournaments in the London calendar. You have the Pearly Kings and Queens. You have the Backbreaker. And then possibly maybe we'd talk about either one of Tom's or one of the Bromley ones. But those two, Pearly Kings and Queens and Backbreakers, I think are the dominant pillars at the moment of the London scene.
And Backbreaker has a proper rule set.
It does.
But proper standard Blood Bowl. So I started playing at tournaments. I started playing in leagues. I've done the SPL, I've done the EC, BBL, so lots of options in London. And I was just really enjoying it. And I got asked to be one of the governors in the DBL, helping to run the league. This year I got asked to step up and be the commissioner running the overall thing. Somehow people seem to
Why? Do you
think
think it's your broad
like
shoulders and stately presence, or do you think there's...
Because he's an old man.
There's this rumor that I have a sort of a commanding presence. Tom has spent 3 years thinking I'm a school teacher, which is absolute rubbish, and was very, very surprised to find out that I wasn't. But I seem to have this way about me. I don't know what it is. But I was doing that. I was getting involved in that, going to tournaments, started running the odd tournament. I've run 4 or 5 now. I think Backbreaker will be my 5th. Not quite on Tom's level, but getting there. I know. Got chatting to Stu Backer, who runs the Southeast. And he said, it's a shame there's not much of a scene in London, because there was a time where it was only Tom's 2 or 3 tournaments a year.
Yeah.
And I agreed with him, and he got chatting and said, why don't you take on the NAF role there, or actually what he said was, why don't you find someone to take on the NAF role? And I think he did that very cleverly, knowing that I'd just say, I'll do it for a while and then we'll find someone. And that turned into, well, actually, if I'm going to do this, I want some bloody tournaments in London.
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of people who've run them in the past, and I just
to rewind the clock back to before you existed in Blood Bowl. We did have a Blood Bowl All London series pre-COVID, as I recall. I think that's what killed it off. And Bromley put on 2 or 3 in the year. Tom put on his 3. We had Pearly Kings and Queens and Backbreaker. Then I think there was another one that was a sort of end of year, bringing all of those people together in a small 3-person team tournament. And somehow we got to 10. So there was about 10 in the year. And it's come back quite a lot stronger than that, hasn't it?
Not that much, right? We're going to be 12 or 13 this year, so it's the first year we've done it. And all I did really was cajole some of those people. We found a couple of others, like the one that Andy went to earlier in the year, that we've discovered that we might try and get in for next year. There's been a couple on the outskirts that have come to our attention as a consequence. So, next year, maybe we'll hope for like 15, 16 tournaments. We'll see how we go. And hopefully the momentum will carry on.
With the Southeast over Bexley and Bromley and Harlow and Egham, aren't we? They're all...
Yeah, but the Southeast have got plenty. They've got plenty. I think Stu Backer's happy to... I think he's happy to give us Bromley. I don't know if we've had this conversation with Chris yet, but we'll find out.
Bromley's not London, but it's definitely not Southeast. It's near enough to London that we can claim it, I feel.
If you're in zone 6 or less, you're definitely in London for that purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then, as you said, the London Tournament Series. Tell me about that. What's going on there? Because these things are cropping up all over the map in England, certainly.
Yeah, that's really about trying to get people coming out repeatedly to tournaments. The idea of a tournament series, it's if we put something on and link it together, hopefully we'll encourage people to come back and try different things and go to different places and get a bit of a scene going. And that's certainly what we're trying to do in London. So we've got the 12, I think it is, tournaments this year, as I said, and you get points for your placings. More points the bigger the tournament is, and more points the longer the tournament is. A few less points if it's one of the variants. So as you've discussed on a previous show, we have got a Dungeon Bowl tournament in there. We've got 2 sevens tournaments in there. They get less points than full standard BB20 11s, but you still get something for them.
Is there at the end of it, or some brag, some poker going to count?
No. I know it's not your thing, but a lot of people play for fun. Dave, it's a really weird concept.
I played the sevens at Thrud, and it didn't feel entirely like a chore. So I guess there's progress on that front.
It is lots of fun. Enough that in one of my days off from Blood Bowl, I invited the Gubs from the DBL round as a thank you for them helping run the league, and we had a whole day of sevens yesterday and a barbecue. So yeah, it's a nice, relaxing way to spend some time.
Well, people like all sorts of things. Some people like being wrapped in cling film really tight. That would weird me out. But, if sevens is your thing, I'm not going to kink shame you. But we have talked about also, just while we're on the London tournament series, it's felt a bit haphazard this year. We did start with 3 or 4 months of speciality gaming, and then we sort of tried to cram 15 tournaments for full Blood Bowl teams into the 3 months of the summer, haven't we? To the point where there has been some casualties. Lloyd's behemoth of respectable tournaments, having run for years, have shoved others out of their way with gay abandon and said, no, we claim the people going to tournaments. So in terms of organising, is it just people put them on and you go, great, we're grabbing that and throwing it in the series, or is there an evil
There,
master plan?
no, there was a bit of that this year. This year was let's try and get a number of tournaments. Let's try and pull as many together as we can and see where we go. I think again, I think it was mentioned on one of your previous episodes. We'll try and be a bit more structured next year. Adam's going to run a full 11s tournament rather than the sevens. One or two of the specialty games are great. We do want the core of it to be normal, in inverted commas, Blood Bowl. Personally, I like a bit of variety in rule packs. We won't go over that whole argument
Sure.
again, but if we can get to a balance that's kind of 50-50, 50%, your vanilla-ish standard, not too much variance Blood Bowls where all teams are viable, and then a handful of tournaments in there that are a bit different, and you can come to, as Borak was, and we'll come on to that. Personally, I think that's the right kind of balance.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think, for example, we've talked about the backbreaker going to, what is a normal rule set, but something where lots of teams are viable, where you don't feel that suddenly, weirdly, say, no elves should bother coming. Something that just feels like whatever you want to coach, you can look and go, okay, well, it may not be the very best pick, but it's not going to really have no chance at all. Because I think there's just times people want to bring either what they love coaching or what they've just painted or what they haven't done on NAF. And I think there's definitely a space for that. Okay, so that's my cast for this evening's chat. And I wanted to talk about Borak Bowl. So let's just briefly talk about, did we enjoy it? Let's start there. Did you have a good time at Borak Bowl, Andy? Did you enjoy the event?
Oh yeah, brilliant. So I mean, it had 3 sort of fun games. I think first game was against Corn. When was it? Drew that. I think it was 1-1, and then the other 2 games lost. I think was that 1 or maybe sort of 2-0, and they were both against sort of undead. But yeah, no, sort of had fun. I thought venue was great. I mean, for me, it was sort of really easy to find, just sort of
We will
straight
talk
down
about
from
all of this
Barnet.
minutiae. I want a more generalised beginning, because we're going to go into things like the venue. So if you had to score it out of 10 for how much you just enjoyed yourself, because we're going to use those sort of work metrics, why not?
Let's go for a 9 out of 10.
Never let it be said I can't commit to a theme.
Yeah, no.
Tom, as the runner, did you play in the tournament? I mean, often you do, and oddly tend to get great draws and win your own tournaments. Did you play in it?
Yes, I did play in this one. Overall enjoyment of the event for me was actually really high.
As an attendee, first of all, out of 10, and tell us about that.
Yeah, I think it's probably for me a 9 or a 10 out of 10 because I liked the later start. Actually, I've often done bigger events, which mean you have to start earlier. So actually, the later start for me was quite nice coming in. I personally enjoyed the rule set. It worked really nicely for my team, and I enjoyed playing all 3 of the individuals that I played. And generally, which has been the case for all of my events, certainly post-COVID, everybody there was really nice. So it was a really nice atmosphere of people to play with, and good fun games.
Always nice to remember that COVID only killed horrible people.
Oh yeah, can I say the later start? Well, that was lovely. I sort of really like that. Getting up at a sensible time and
absolutely, it's been a real
just
feature of London.
I cannot thank you for that enough.
We will spend some time on it. What about as tournament organizer? How did you feel it went there? Just again, an overview.
So I did enjoy it. I mean, I don't know if you want me to talk about the change because for me this is a brand new venue, the second event I ran there. If you want,
we're going to talk about the venue a bit too, so we'll do that later. So just overall now.
So just generally overall as a tournament organizer, I thought it was really good. There was some issues with timing, which was better than previous events, but has generally been worse since COVID, which is interesting. Like it was easier for me for timings pre-COVID, but it's been worse afterwards. Don't know why that is.
Okay.
It might be because I'm too easy on people. There was one concession at this event, which is the first time I've ever had that, which surprised me.
Mid-game.
And was a bit tricky to deal with. I won't actually name the person on the podcast here, but it was interesting, and it wasn't someone you would expect. I'm happy to talk about it offline more.
Okay.
But that was quite challenging to deal with. Fortunately, his opponent and sort of where they were sitting on the table and how it worked out meant it didn't really affect the overall thing. But I sort of was caught a bit on the fly. So that was a challenge that I had to deal with. But overall, yeah, the running event went really smoothly. Results came in. Nobody was a dick. And yeah, enjoyed it.
Despite having both me and the legendary Andy Davo there.
I know.
So they are two of the famous biggest dicks in Blood Bowl, and yet no one was a dick. You heard it here. Jim, first of all, as a player, how did you rate it?
Well, I know how net promoter scores work, so I'm not going to give him another 9 because he's not getting that highly rated. I'll give him a good 7.5. I thought it was.
Yeah, I was going to go 7, so
event.
I think we're in the same sort of territory.
Yeah.
Okay. Any particular reasons? Any strong things you took away as an overview?
Well, we might get into it later. I'm not a massive fan of the way Tom does tiebreakers.
Okay. We will certainly come to that because rule set is on the agenda, as you can imagine. As his boss, as the head of the NAF cartel within the London area, is he still a made man? Does he get to run more tournaments? Were you happy with the performance on a NAF and London tournament series level?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a solid 8 out of 10 for Tom there. I'd love him to use tour play. It just feels a bit more transparent and simple and accepted by the community now. But apart from that, I cannot fault it at all. It was a really well-run event. Tom's done
So apart from
19
the
of these things now.
You can't fault it outside of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is the shit sandwich feedback where I try and put the some good stuff around actually telling him it wasn't good enough in the middle.
Yeah, I think we've definitely got that. So picked up on. Right, so overall we all had a good time. I mean, I was the same. I'd give it a 7. I really enjoyed the tournament. I thought the atmosphere was good, and in general, I would go again. So yeah, all very positive from me. But obviously we can nitpick and we can make Tom feel bad about some things. So let's do that. Let's talk about the build-up to the tournament. How did we all hear about it? Was Tom communicating it and selling it well enough? Was the information out there?
So I've
let's go reverse waves around, Jim.
So I'm in the DBL tournament chat. I'm in the ECBL chat. I'm in far too many WhatsApp chats. So I heard about it pretty early. I was signing up early. I really like some other elements of the rule pack we'll come on to. So it's not one I was going to miss. So yeah, heard about it strong and loud early. Rule pack was out really early. It was communicated well what was going to happen. So can't fault it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think given that it was Tom, who, as I've always said, puts in a respectably minimal level of effort into everything he does. Terrifying that he's in the army and responsible for saving us from Putin, but there we are. I hope that's not secret and doesn't get you targeted. But yeah, he seems to organise tournaments without really doing very much, which I massively respect. But yes, it did seem that this one, the information was out there. It was on the NAF site. It was in the ECBL WhatsApp group, which I'm only in because I got jealous when Dibby was talking about how he was in it. And there was a tournament I'd missed because he'd been there. So how do Ronin like I, that are not in a league, that have no friends in Blood Bowl, how are we supposed to hear about these things? How was Andy supposed to hear about this? Andy, how did you hear about this? Let's start there.
It was on the sort of London series, sort of, was it Discord server? I think it was.
Yeah.
And just me sort of just going through and just trying to sort of see what's there, see what sort of matched up with sort of holidays as being a teacher, and thought, looked at sort of location for me.
So you found Tom's event because people like Jim put the effort in to make sure that it was on the Discord and talked about.
That was very much me, yeah.
I can only assume so.
Okay. Tom, how did you feel the promotion and telling people about your tournament went this time, mate?
I actually think, I guess that's a really good thing about the series, right? Because the way I promote it is I do, as you said, the minimal NAF requirement effort, which is I post it on Talk Fantasy Football, so that's a separate place to the NAF. And I post it on the NAF itself, so obviously anyone who wants to play a NAF event can go and look at it. So you see it on the NAF, you see it on Talk Fantasy, and I do that before I put it in any WhatsApp chats, obviously, because I'm required to do that. And then I simply...
Tom, you also did it before you got it NAF approved, which you got a bit of a slap on the wrist for, so don't do that again, you man.
Yeah, well, we can go into that discussion if you want to. I don't really understand how you promote an event and release a rules pack to get the NAF approval without getting the approval. Do you see what I mean? Am I supposed to send it to you first? Is that what I'm supposed to do? 'Cause I've never done
You're supposed to send it to the NAF before you say it's NAF approved.
It has to go through the ethics committee. Unless you're a third circle NAF, then frankly, there's hoops to be jumped through.
Right. Like Jim said before, I run 19 events, and the way I do it is just put it up so that they can see it, and then they can approve it or not. I mean, but I've never actually submitted it to the NAF. I don't know how many people do that. I don't know if Tom does that, but I'm sorry if I'm supposed to do that. I will try and do that in the future. So yeah. So anyway, I put it on Talk Fantasy, put it on the NAF, and then I just share the Talk Fantasy link, so the actual Talk Fantasy forum link in all of the London WhatsApp groups, and I've actually got my own from during COVID. We started doing like we had to do draws like via WhatsApp because we had to be separated. We actually have a group of quite a lot of people still in there, so I'll share on that as well. And then actually, I think this is quite a good point that the series element now means that I'm not a massive Discord user, but it means that because it's in the series, it gets shared on the series, and that means that everybody can see it, and that's great. Through no effort of me, as you pointed out.
Yeah,
good,
I mean, I'd really recommend that if, like me, you're not in a league, if you just want to go to some tournaments and play your Blood Bowl online or whatever, then get into your local, everyone around England, certainly in the UK, has a Discord server covering that region now. And you'll find out about the local tabletops. And if you fancy one, you'll be given plenty of notice there. As soon as we're aware of them, or the local NAF reps are aware of them, they tend to get their own little sub-channel, and people start talking about who's going, and the rule set and all the other good stuff to do with that. So, I mean, I do feel there was lots of notice that the lovely Borak Bowl was back and coming out again. The rule set, let's move on to that. So presumably once we all found out about it, we clicked the lovely link and we downloaded the rule set with the plenty of spelling errors and the certain things that Tom hasn't changed for 5 years that aren't quite valid anymore. But amongst all of that, mostly made sense of it. Let's talk about the rule set. What did we make of it? Andy, this would have been only the second tournament rule set you've ever looked at. How did you feel about it? Did it make sense?
Yeah, made sense sort of to me. I think personally, I need to maybe read them a bit more carefully. So I personally, I made some sort of mistakes on sort of put my team together. But for me, it's a learning experience for me, and so if I go to
in terms of mistakes, you just
with
mean
every
you
game
didn't...
and tournament, if I learn something, that's what I want.
Sure.
I really liked the inclusion of sort of mutations.
Yeah, let's cut to Tom quickly
and
to explain his rule set.
That
then
was
we'll
great.
talk about how clear it was. Tom, tell us about Borak, that brand. What is it?
So it's one of 3 events that I usually have run in the year, and I will try and go back to, but it was kind of the Talk Muffle brand, where I always did Super Bowl at the start of the year. That was the standard NAF whatever kind of rule set. Often it has actually just been the NAF rule set because that's easy. People know what it is and you can use it to warm up. But that's even lazier. But that's the standard one, right? Then I always used to do one at the end of the year that went through a few different names, but was effectively like Try Hard Bowl. And that for me was the rule set that I think is the most competitive rule set, which is essentially no tiers. Stars are allowed for everybody, but I limit the very ridiculous ones. But if you want to bring the top stuff, bring the top stuff. If you don't. And for me, I think that balances out the stunties a bit more because of, and that's my opinion. We won't go to that discussion here. So I have like what the scene thinks, what I think is the 2 competitive events, and then in the middle I do the super wacky fun Borak Bowl that was supposed to. And the idea was it was supposed to be the 3rd one to allow somebody to come to one of my events and have like an experience of the 3 different types, right?
Yeah.
And it has been through a number of iterations. The earliest iterations were probably the most mental and random because they effectively were more like normal rule sets, but every single round you would get random mutations added to your team. So you would roll on like a table. I think the first one I did was like roll a d4, you get one of the 4 gods, then roll a d6, you get a random mutation on probably a random player. It was something crazy like that. And the problem with it was very obvious at the end of that round was some people got amazing teams by the end because you kept it throughout. And then some people had terrible teams by the end and it just really unbalanced it. So I went through a couple of rounds of like doing the random mutation thing. I then like went solid on just having like a couple of mutations allowed. So you still got some mutations within your roster, but went to the Death Zone Merc rules, so allowed Death Zone Mercs for about 3 years maybe. And broadly they were fine. Like I remember when I first brought them in, Pete W actually came in and said, "This is completely broken. People are obviously going to bring this and just win the event." And I'm like,
we all did.
Like, Yeah, and I was like, Pete, like 22 blokes and girls in London come and play in this event. PC's probably going to bring that. The other 21 won't, and like it'll be fine probably. And that broadly, it was fine.
Yeah, I
But
did.
yeah, you did.
So obviously in that you can build a stunty, lower its passing stat, dirty player sneaky git for buttons. So obviously I did that.
And the issue was by last year, everybody did that. So it did take 2 or 3 years to catch up.
Yeah,
But
year
then
one was
last year,
great.
everybody just got that beat. Yeah. So I was like, well, this is kind of pointless now. It's not really achieving the bring your star that you can build mutations idea. So this year I went for get rid of the mercs, keep a fairly standardy rule set, but then just allow you to stack as many mutations you want on one player or multiple players. So the idea is like if you want to build a chaos star, you can. If you want to spread it around and just have a slightly more chaotic team, you can, and kind of see what people did. And for me, I think it worked pretty well. I was quite happy with the outcome and looking at the different types of builds people had done. I mean, Andy Davo came and did the obvious thing, which was to take 2 witches, one with 2 heads and horns, one with just 2 heads, I think it was.
Yep.
Which is probably the obvious thing to do. But most people took a variations
I've
on
always
2
said
heads.
that or 2 dancers, the same build.
Yeah.
2 heads on
I
both
think
and
that's the
horns
obvious
on
thing.
the tackle one.
Yeah. But that's the inherent problem with this rule set, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anything I do with it, there are going to be a couple of people who will try and bring whatever the most powerful thing is, which is fine. But I broadly found that the majority of people don't. So, and that's, I think, was the case for this event.
Well, we're going to talk about what people actually bring and what they talk about a little bit later, because I found some disparity there. But let's go back to Andy. So you've heard what Borak's supposed to be about. Did that make sense to you? In building?
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah, it's with the mutations. It's sort of for me. It's sort of it adds flavour. Especially especially if you're sort of playing one of the chaos teams. Like sort of Nurgle. You can put your block on your bloaters, and then some other sort of primary and secondary skills, and then you can have your sort of some mutations to give your team sort of character. One of the things that I sort of really sort of enjoyed with the going back to the league is when you're sort of clocking up your point, your was it SPVs or Ps. I just sort of went all hog and just where you can go random mutations and stuff and just seeing what you get. And
So how did you build? What did you said you made some mistakes building. Was that in terms of they didn't fit the rule set, or you just don't think you built very well?
no, I think firstly, I think one thing I will always remember is make sure you read your rule pack much more really carefully, because you can't stack your skills. So very quickly I had to sort of quickly sort of separate those and sort of
So you
spread it.
designed a roster with stacked skills, and then realised when you got there, oh, I have to have
Yeah,
unstacked skills.
and I think
because controversially, Tom lets you just turn up with a roster, and we check it on the other person as we sit down, don't we?
Yeah, and that's what happened. So very quickly I had to sort of spread stuff. So that's a mistake I'll never sort of make again. And then and then adding the mutations, that was sort of great fun. But also it allowed me as a sort of someone who's fairly new is to learn a bit more about another aspect.
Yeah.
Regarding sort of Nurgle and sort of chaos teams who have that access to this sort of other sort of area. This other sort of other area that sort of certain teams like Nurgle can have access to.
Can I ask what mutations you put on?
I think I took a two-headed Pestigore. I can't remember now. I think two-headed Pestigore, extra arms Pestigore as well. And I might have done. Did I put a claws on a bloater? I think.
That would make
You're asking
sense.
us, Andy.
Yeah, I can't. I honestly, I think during the summer holidays, my brain shuts down.
Yeah, fair enough. Jim, a much more experienced builder of teams. What did you make of?
Can I just make one point as well?
Yes.
Just jumping in, actually, you jogged my memory, Andy. I do think I'm quite happy with the fact that people can bring their rosters on the day in general, because I think it allows people to fluctuate right up to the day.
Oh, that's going to
But
crop up.
yeah, true. But actually, for this event particularly, I've noticed a couple of newer players coming through now in the London scene have access to me because they have WhatsApp, although I'm in a chat, right? So actually, for this event, I did have 3 or 4 people send me rosters who are sort of newish, like Toby, for example, sent me one.
Yeah.
And because they have access to me through WhatsApp, they were able to ask those questions. I think I need to change the pack, particularly for Borak, because of the complexity.
So you need to get less accessible so they can't contact you.
No,
That's the message.
no, and actually say, because they've got my email address in the pack, and make it clear in the somewhere in the team building. Please do send me a roster. It's not required until the day, but please do send me a roster ahead of time if you want to check and just kind of.
I don't want to check rosters. I am very lazy, but if you want some help, contact me here.
Yeah, I reckon so. Yeah, I think that might be a good change, David. What do you reckon?
Well, we're going to talk about rosters in a sec. That's going to be what we do next. But just for now, I want to stay on what we built and that rule pack. What did you build, by the way?
My team.
Yeah.
My team was undead. I took Cheney, so I had 2 rerolls essentially, the normal undead build, but 2 rerolls instead of 3. And then I took 2 tentacles mummies, and stupidly, I took an extra arms ghoul because my theory was that I'm going to fail the pickups on 1s and I've got fewer rerolls, so I wanted to be able to pick the bull up on a 2 and not use my rerolls. And that worked in none of the games. I rolled a 1 for every single pickup on my draft. And there were loads of times where I really needed 2 heads, so it was a complete mistake, but that was fine. I'll own it.
So elfing your ghoul rather than making it a pickup monster might have been a way to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Jim, you're an experienced builder. What did you build?
Well, before I build, I just want to let Andy know you're not alone in not understanding everything before you turned up.
Yeah.
I may have got a text from the tournament organizer 15 minutes before the tournament started going, what tier are Chaos Dwarfs in? And he's organised 19 tournaments, so people make mistakes, people forget things. I took Slan. I like this pack because you can do something a little bit different with a team. I know some people think Slan aren't a team, but I'm trying to play everything in
Slam
in
are
the
a
NAF,
team, but they shouldn't be. That's my view.
Yeah. So I've ticked them off now, and I particularly like the fact that by adding mutations to the teams that can't normally take mutations, you can double down on something and try and get better at something you're already good at.
Yeah.
So I went for big hands on a catcher, so you can get in there and pick up a ball wherever, whenever on a 2.
Yeah.
And I had
Terrifying.
two horns wrestle line frogs, so they can jump in on a 4 and hit balls. And that those are nice elements to make an already good defensive team even better defensively.
Yes, that is a terrifying prospect to face. You can't cage against a strength 4 hitting leaper, and any ball on the ground can go on a leap that is a 2 to leap and a 2 to pick up.
And he had dodge as well,
and
so
he had
can
dodge
get
to
out
get out
relatively.
afterwards, or to get in and leap out. Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And anything you would we'll talk about. We'll talk about what would change at the end. So we'll go back and see what we would build next time. For full disclosure, I was going to take the wood elves that for about 5 years I've promised myself I will take to Borak because I think it's the right answer. For some reason I've never thought dark elves would be as good, but there we are. I guess it's probably because they're AV8 with the amount of claw that might be around. I just think might suffer, whereas wood elves already have AV7, AV8 plus. So who gives a shit if people have claw? But I suddenly noticed that Tom had chosen to use Games Workshop tiering, and as I think most people, if asked the question, what's the worst tiered team at the moment, the most out of place in its tier, would answer, well, vampires in tier 2. That's ridiculous. So I thought, yeah, vampires in tier 2. That is ridiculous. And as it's a very generous rule set offering 1200, it meant I could, for once, and probably the only time ever, take a Vargeist. My good friend Kalorn on the Irish scene swears by them. But he's wrong on many things. Remember, he rolls dice by hand. He is, as I suspected, wrong about Vargeists. I put Ironhard Skin on it, and I was debating literally until I turned up. Was it also going to have tentacles? Or because Ironhard Skin, because it's very hard to remove anyway, I thought lean into that. Was it also going to have tentacles, or was, as well as one runner having 2 heads, the other going to have 2 heads, or the other have a big hand? And I went with one with big hand, which wasn't very useful, I have to say. And the other one with 2 heads, which was fantastic. And then the Ironhard Skin. It's hard to say if it was useful because the Vargeist was completely rubbish in 3 games. It never saved him once, but on the other hand, perhaps people didn't hit it because they knew it had iron hard skin. There was one game where, having been knocked over, someone decided to repeatedly pile in and foul it with 3 or 4 assists. I let them do it twice before I pointed out that the assists were completely meaningless. I thought that was the line between being competitive and being nice. Um, Maybe I should have said it after the first foul. Pointed out, they went, "Oh, even with the 4 assists, that's not through." And I went, "No, no, it isn't." And maybe that was the moment to say, and the 4 assists were irrelevant. You needed to roll a natural 11, 10. But I didn't. I did do it on the 3rd foul, though. So maybe there's a good person struggling to get out of me. I don't know. Maybe not. So that was the team I took. Yeah, I thought the rule pack was fairly clear, but then I'm used to reading Tom's rule packs. There was a couple of things that clearly hadn't been updated since the last time he'd used that rule pack. But again, we've come to expect these things. And turning up on the day and checking the roster opposite me, I don't mind it personally. So let's talk about those rosters. It is perhaps one of the controversial elements of events that Tom runs. So this time I want to start with what Jim feels about it, because I think that might kick the discussion off. Jim, turning up with a roster that no one's checked and your opponent's job is to check it during the first game. Are you a fan?
I don't love it when it's a non-standard tournament. I think it's probably fair enough if you go into a really simple build, and I understand why Tom does it, because it keeps his cost down, not using something like tour play.
Yeah.
It does make sense, and it saves his time, and he is intrinsically lazy, as we've already discussed.
Mm.
So I get why that works. But if you take someone like Andy, first or second tournament, himself struggling with the rule pack, how can if he'd sat down in round 1 against Andy Davo, how can you realistically expect him to check whether the build's right, and B, stand up to him if it's not and say, I think your
I
build's
wouldn't
wrong?
expect him to raise his eyes from the board if he
Yeah,
was sat opposite Andy Davo.
exactly. Just you get off your knees, man, before you roll a dice. That's where we have to start from. So I do think it can be a little tough for inexperienced players in particular.
I mean, for me, one of the joys of it is I genuinely was deciding on my roster until the minute I sat down. And the Friday night, if you'd asked me to put it in, guaranteed lock it in on Wednesday, it was Wood Elves. It only changed to Vampires on Thursday and Friday, and I only 100% settled on the skills on Saturday morning. And there's a big value there for me, because there's other ones I lock in a month in advance, then I spend a month slightly regretting it. Whereas at least with Tom's, there's very little regret, as I genuinely usually haven't decided until the morning. So, Andy, how did you feel about turn up on the day and assess your opponent's roster?
Daunting, because very obviously inexperienced in the game, very experienced with just tournament play, full stop, and all of sort of the different teams. So actually, sort of looking at sort of the corner list, in a way, I'm sort of not really sure what to sort of look for, and sort of have a look and get a general idea of what the team's about. But in terms of sort of picking out mistakes, as an inexperienced sort of tournament player, just an experienced sort of Blood Bowl player, I personally wouldn't. I'd find it very difficult to sort of pick out mistakes. So I mean that's and it is for me. It was daunting. It's like I was like,
That's
oh my
a
god,
fair and honest response, and that's absolutely why you're here. Thank you for that, Andy. Tom, so I really don't mind it. I find it quite fun. There's an allegation that maybe tour play you're just too cheap for, and Andy found it a bit distressing. How do you feel about your turn up and check it on the day?
No, I think it's fair. I think there are more newer and newer people coming through, which I can see as a challenge. I think generally the events that I run, this one was interesting. I think probably this one there are waves, I would say. So broadly, 75% of the events I run, I know probably 95% of people there. There might be one new person. Sometimes there's none. Like quite often there's none. This one there were probably 4 new people that I didn't know. One time I had 10, which was the most, but that's like a wave. There'll suddenly be a load of new people. So broadly, it will be the Super Bowl. It will be 24 people who played in the last event who I kind of know, and I'm quite happy that I know they're not going to cheat, and that I'm happy that I know the people will come up and ask me if they're worried about a roster. I think it's a valid point, though. I didn't really actually click, Andy, that you were brand new. Like I knew that Toby was brand new. I knew that Callum was fairly new, but you didn't come across as new, if that makes sense. When you came up to me, I didn't know that you were a brand new NAF player until later on in the event. Otherwise, I probably would have asked you and just checked that you were content. I just didn't pick up on it. So that's probably my bad. I think what I said before, PC, that maybe putting a line and asking people to send them to me if they're content would be a good thing to do, I think. Probably. But yeah.
And I do think there's a point. I mean, I'm quite happy to check the person opposite me's roster, although I'm incredibly incompetent at it. I always sort of go, is that, yeah, I suppose, oh, okay, yeah, that is right. It's always that. I always think it isn't right, and then I work it out, and it always is. But is there some way we could maybe look at helping the people that are new, or identifying them and offering them a...
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's probably on me, isn't it? To make sure that if there is somebody who's brand new coming, I just need to click that that's the case and say, look, I'll check your opponents or make sure that we've done that ahead of time. I think that's probably what I need to do. I mean, I will just make one more comment on the tour play thing. I'm personally not going to move off the system that I do. And the reason that I'm not going to move off it is you were there, actually, PC.
Is the fantastic draws it gives you.
Yeah, exactly. That for a starter, because I always want
a laptop.
Or
it hates me. I mean, it might be mutual.
No, I hate you, and I control the laptop. But I did use Score previously for probably maybe 19 events, maybe the first half dozen or so. So a chunk, like I used Score, and then at the LGT, Score failed game 2, and so this get your head around this, Andy, completely lost absolutely everything from the first couple of rounds. Essentially had to go around everybody. You were at that event. I don't know if you picked up on it. Essentially had to go around everybody and figure out what happened in the first game. And we were ready into the second game and produced a spreadsheet on the fly. And me personally, like, tour play hasn't failed yet, but someday it might fail, it might crash. I don't know. Like, I'm just not going to take that risk. I'm quite happy having my spreadsheet. I'm not going to go through that again. But I can think about ways, certainly, to help new players. I'm quite happy to take any observations.
Now there was a mention in the chat earlier. Did you realise this was a performance review, Tom, before agreeing to come on? It's genuinely not. I just want to look at the whole aspect of what I think was a really successful tournament, and I think it's a great way to do it from lots of different perspectives at once. But yes, a lot of that shit's going to come piling on you because you're responsible for it all, but also all the positives. There's lots of things that we all liked, so let's be nice and positive about it too.
And I will touch on a positive. I would say Tom is clearly a very experienced TO, but
absolutely.
to play in a tournament that you're running on an Excel piece of software and still keep everything running on time is a pretty incredible feat. Not many people could do that. I've run more on Excel and I didn't play and I couldn't have played and done it successfully. Tour play is what allows me to play in the tournaments I'm running because it makes it really easy. But for you to do that, Tom, it's testament to how much you know and understand the game and the spreadsheet you built. So fair play.
He runs a fine tournament. As I've said before, without seemingly putting much effort in, which I massively respect.
Thank you. Thanks,
long may that continue. And when you run tournaments and I'm available, I will come because I think they're very well run and fun to be at. In terms of everyone's preparation for the day, and then we'll start talking about the event itself a bit more. Tom, did your players prepare adequately? Did they give you what you needed as a tournament organizer? Did they turn up with what you wanted? Was everyone's preparation for the event good? Do we need feedback from you?
No, yeah, they were. Everybody was prepared. I need to. One of the things I do need to change my packs. I've actually made some notes this time from this year, particularly about things I need to change. One of the things I do need to change is ask people to bring pictures because every year it used to be that we used to play a Rule 0 where we basically had enough pictures. So all I had to do was nudge a couple of mates and just make sure I had a couple of extra pictures. We're playing at a separate pub. I only have 6 pictures. I always need like 6, 7 pictures. So I need to change stuff for that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got about 4 personally I could have brought.
I'd put in the pack, don't bring pictures. So, but the people I asked who brought pictures, everybody had painted teams. Everybody did bring their rosters. There was one person who'd misread the pack who was actually playing me in the first round. So I helped him amend his team before he started playing me and made sure he had the right one. But otherwise, yeah, everybody turned up on time broadly. I think there was one person, you Jim, actually, and one other person were very nearly late. And it's best to be on time, please. So please do try harder next time.
So of all the various problems, get to the tournament you've agreed to go to on time, so it can actually get started and we know who's there. Yeah, is that the?
Well, the problem is, everybody's waiting, right? I mean, because it's tricky, isn't it? Because I mean, what I do if 2 people are late is sort of kind of redraw it and just make those 2 play each other. But theoretically that's a bit dodgy, because if people pick up on that and kind of figure out who might turn up late, try and get themselves to not play hard. And I don't like it. I like to do the more random draw. So it's just not brilliant, is it?
Yeah.
So really, you're kind of, if you're not on time, there are 24 people waiting for you to get there, so that you can do the announcement to start the events.
Yeah,
So,
my sister loves getting on planes sort of 15 minutes before they take off. Literally at the point where she probably has to force the door slightly to actually still get on the plane. And she has always said, well, what's the problem? I still get on the plane. I'm like, yeah, but there's 120 other people who that flight might now be delayed for because you're being so incredibly selfish. Now, obviously, people have transport issues. That happens. But Jim, is it fair comment to say that there's a learning there for you? You should have got there on time.
I think, as he said, I was on time, just nearly late. What he didn't say was I hadn't paid 2 days in advance. I completely forgot that I hadn't paid, and Tom did have to check. I ended up evening out the numbers, but I wouldn't have got to play at all if Tom already had even numbers because I hadn't signed up. So yeah, there's definitely a learning point for me there. But yeah, I was on time. I let him know exactly where I was 15 minutes in advance, and that I'd
And
be
your
there. But
preparation
yeah,
for the
it's
day,
fair.
did you have everything you needed? Did you feel that you'd brought enough stuff and got the right bands and all of that?
Yeah. Charlie Victor bands are amazing. Make it nice and clear. I had all that sorted. Got into a good routine about that nowadays. The only thing, I mean, preparation wise, Greenskin Phil, Chris has been on here before, would absolutely hate me because I never play a practice game. I always turn up at a race I've not played before. So from that sense, no, woefully underprepared. But in terms of turning up with a pitch where I was supposed to be just about the right time, yeah, I nailed it.
I mean, I guess for me, the learning point, I mean, I pack my standard bag. Nowadays, I have to make sure that my medication is in there in case, you know, and everything I need to play Blood Bowl, and a recharger for my phone is always in my front pocket just in case my phone goes down because they're so vital to everything now, particularly on the more advanced tournaments that use tour play. Um, and I also usually put in my pitch. Now, I tend to bring my NAF World Cup pitch because it's really lightweight and fits into anything. It rolls up. And it's really easy to put out because it's not cardboard, so it can't be banged. It's a sheet. The problem with it, I've noticed at a couple of events, is if you play not at the ends but on the sides, it has both the dugouts on one side of the pitch, and if someone's over the other side of the table, that's really not very good for them. So to tournament organisers asking me to bring a pitch, please do tell me whether we're playing on the ends or on the sides, and it will alter which pitch I bring because I do have some of the cardboard ones. So if I'd known that we were playing on tables where it was a bit more restricted, I'd probably have bought a cardboard one so that you can put, your dugout anywhere you want and just have the pitch out in front of you. It doesn't matter if you're at the ends or the sides. But in terms of that, I had everything I wanted: all my bands, my team, my chess clock, a paper copy of my roster to show people. But I'm quite interested in asking Andy the same thing. Did you feel you had, in terms of what you turned up with on the day, did you feel you were prepared? Did you sort of know what you would need and expect? And did you think you had all the right bits?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm one of these people that I'll pack my bag before. So I had all my stuff, rule book and sort of bands. Yeah, I've sort of invested in like the Charlie Victor stuff, mainly because it helps me to remember what skills I've got on on my players. So to help me, so I don't sort of forget. Yeah, and for this one, because on the going back to sort of the pack, I didn't bother bringing a pitch because I thought I wouldn't need it, but otherwise, yeah,
that is
because
correct.
normally
Well done, Andy.
normally
You
it
read
just
the pack.
normally it sits in my bag, and that's a bit of the tour pack, the tournament pack I actually remember, and so I left it at home. Otherwise, I would have brought it. And then I mean, in terms of like prep, in terms of the team, because it's the only team I've sort of played, since beginning, so I've got a fairly good grasp of how bad Nurgle are and how slow they are.
Andy, as someone I've only met briefly recently, and I happen to know you live very near me, which I guess is why you came up in Welland. It's on the same train line that Oakley Park that we tend to use in our part of North London. And having lost my other North London Blood Bowl friend, Hef, who has left me for the Midlands and the allure of cheaper housing, please stop playing Nurgle or we'll lose you from Blood Bowl.
Oh no,
Just
I will.
pick a
I
better
think
team, mate.
no, I think yeah, I'm sort of swaying possibly orcs or maybe sort of humans to.
I'm a fan of both of those plans.
Yeah. So I think I've got a couple of sprues of humans. So perhaps I might sort of dig those out, build them, paint them, and actually sort of learn the game properly with a half decent team.
And maybe,
Suppose.
I mean, dream scenario, maybe occasionally get a draw or possibly a win. I mean, that might happen.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm after. I think with every tournament I'll go to, it's try and set myself a sort of a target.
Yeah, I mean, it's really
And
important to have personal goals. I mean, at Griff Bowl that we were out at the weekend, my goal was I wanted to come back with 50%. Really, that's usually my minimum. I'm going to be happy if I get at least a 50%. Because I played a lot more Blood Bowl than you, I'm sure that's not unreasonable to say. And that's a fairly reasonable, achievable target for me, which means I'm usually happy. Beyond that, I have other, stretch goals, but set a reasonably achievable goal. Make your life easier and happier.
yeah.
What about the venue? Andy, let's start with you, as we finished with you last time. What did you make of the venue? We were at the
Oh
Old
yeah,
Cock
that's
Tavern
great.
on Fleet Street.
I know, what a great name that was.
Self-professed.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, for me, really easy to find. Sort of tube in Northern Line, Bankment, one stop to sort of Temple. Really easy to find. Yeah, really nice sort of old, sort of very sort of thin pub. And yeah, and the games were sort of split between sort of like two levels. So you went upstairs. So I think half the games were sort of on one side, and you went up another set of stairs to the other.
Yes, we were on the
Yeah, sort of
third
really,
and fourth floor of the pub, weren't we?
yeah. So yeah, really nice. Sort of the session, the sort of area, sort of me and Tom were playing, and we had air conditioning, which was nice. Kept it a bit sort of cool on a
I
hot
was in the
day.
upper level, and I don't think we had air conditioning, but I did instantly bag the window seat.
Oh,
So there was
nice.
one table that was right in the window at the far end of the room, with two lovely
Oh,
bench seats either side, and I just bagged that and refused to move all day.
what I thought, I mean,
Would you
what
rather have
sort of
had
what?
lots of tournaments have assigned seating where you have to go to a certain number, like we did yesterday? Would you
Yeah.
would you rather that, or did you like the Tom just goes,
There's
look,
there's
find your partner, find a table, get on and play Blood Bowl, tell me what happened.
there's I mean, one of the things I sort of found, I don't know what's the word, like sort of strange is, when you're sort of doing calling out who you're playing, you go and buy your NAF names, and there's like going, like, who the bloody hell's that? You're trying to sort of listen out for your own sort of obscure sort of NAF name, and then trying to remember another obscure NAF name. Yeah, I was thinking like, who the bloody hell's that? Oh, and it literally at my head. And I think probably for every round I was going to Tom, who am I playing? Who's that?
Someone who's known me
So
in the
that
Blood Bowl world for 5 years is on the chat this evening. Has only heard this evening that my first name is David.
and so that and then you finding, and I think possibly again me as a newer player or
Yeah.
newer players, if you have your tables numbered, 1 to sort of 10, you can actually, if you're just working by NAF names, you can go right X and Y, you're playing table 1, bum, 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 and actually that sort
Yeah.
of going, oh my
Okay.
god, who am I playing?
I mean, I have to say
Who
that
are they?
I
You can
quite
actually
like
just,
I quite liked being able to bag my window seat all day. So
oh
perhaps I'm
yeah,
being very selfish and thinking that I quite like it. And because it's only usually sort of 25 usually at an event, or 28 or
mm,
something. Usually people put their hands up when Tom names them, so you can sort of go, oh, who's
yeah,
sticking their hand up? But we'll come to Tom at the end of this round, so we'll see what he says about that. I really liked the venue. It's already been mentioned. I liked
mm,
the start time because it's a pub. They won't let us in before midday.
yeah.
It is the Strand, so it's central London. It's just off the Strand on Fleet Street in central London.
Mm.
But it's just off the West End, which means that on a Saturday, it tends to be a fairly clear area except tourists, because obviously the city doesn't work, and the tourists tend to be towards the West End. So it's kind of in a part of London that's really easy to get to, but tends not to be over full at the weekends. It is in a pub, so there's beer available all day.
Mm.
There's a nice atmosphere. I thought it was, they made us
Yeah.
very welcome, and as you said, there were two levels to it this time. I think last time we were there, we only had the one room, and it was a bit crowded. And I ended up at one point sat on a stool playing on a small round table, which I had to lean down even from the stool to play things on, against Corn Knight, who took about 4.5 days to play the game. So that one didn't make me particularly comfortable. I did like the expansion into the second room, And I thought the venue was great. I mean, I'd go there again.
Yeah.
And I think we've got into the habit in London now of trying not to start tournaments too early. Now, maybe that's the venue restrictions, but we also play at the Arcanists Tavern. There's the new one up in on the Hornsey Road, a few minutes walk from my old flat. And all of them seem to say, yeah, we're not starting early. This is London. So the very earliest I think we've started this year that I've been to was a sort of turn up for 10, and we'll try and get going after that. But this one was a rock up at midday one, wasn't it? And I find that incredibly nice. It means I can have a good morning, have a nice shower, spend some time with the family, and still have loads of time to get into town and have some breakfast on the way and not feel I'm rushing. So I thought that was really cool. Does mean we sort of end mid-evening, and it makes, there's not an obvious meal break within a schedule perhaps. So sometimes it squashes the event together a bit, but I do feel that the breaks could have been a tiny bit longer, maybe. But I mean, maybe that's just me. I quite like chatting to people outside while I have a cigarette and working the room, as it were. But some people just want to play their Blood Bowl and get the hell out. So perhaps I'm a lone voice there. Jim, what did you make of the venue and the all of that?
I like it's decent venue. We struggle in London for venues. It's why there have been less tournaments historically. It's expensive to rent space. It's difficult to find spaces that are big enough. I'd say it's our biggest limiting factor compared to other parts of the country. So this one I like. I'd always rather we were in one room than two. I think it's a slight shame, but for two rooms, they are very close. They're very easily connected. You are. It's a few paces. It's not a flight of stairs.
Yeah,
or
there's a
anything
curtain
like that.
and about 4 stairs, isn't there? It's
Yeah,
not really a separate
exactly. No, so it's about as good as you can get. The pub is a decent pub, very friendly people in there. We play some league games in there. They know us. They're very chatty. They're always interested in what's going on. Good pub, good food. If you have it, I did. You said it's quite part of the town at weekends. I did during game one. I managed to break one of my prancing frogs at the ankle. So I always finish my games quite early. I went out down to the Strand to get some blue tack to put him back together on a temporary basis. And on the way out, I walked past a performing coven of witches, which I assumed were there to celebrate Tom. And when I'd got past them, I bumped into one of the pro-Palestinian marches that had closed the whole of the centre of London. So it was not so quiet that particular day. Once you got out of the tournament, but yeah, it's lots of things around there. Lots of opportunities, and even other good pubs nearby that we could go for a pint afterwards. So cannot complain about the venue at all.
No, I really liked it. I mean, if it's in central London, I'm going to like it. That's nice, easy to get to, and you can do plenty of stuff afterwards and get home easily and stuff. How were they to deal with, Tom? Is it affordable? Do they rinse you for it? Is it hard
Yeah.
to organise? And what did
No,
you make
yeah,
of
they
your
are
venue
really good.
choice?
Yeah, they are really good. I mean, any tour organizer, however lazy, will agree that it's crucial to have like a good relationship with the venue organizers and
Yep.
for them to make it easy for you to run right.
Yep.
So a little bit of kudos for Jim as well, because as some people listening will know, some won't. All of the events I used to run used to be at Rule Zero, which was over in Hackney Wick. And kind of the reason that I ended up running so many events actually is because I became really good friends with the guys who ran the bar. So even when they moved to a new bar, it was essentially running an event in a space owned by my mates. So it was just so easy to do. Like there
You
was
don't
no
think they were
prep
being nice to you
at
because you brought money in?
all. Your point, yes,
You
there
think
is
they
there
liked
is a bit of
Okay.
that. There is a bit of that. But it just made it so easy. So actually,
Yeah.
when Rule Zero shut,
Yeah.
I very nearly threw the towel in. Like I came really, really close. Last year, I was like, I was quite burnt out as well. I had run a lot of events in a row, and I was a bit like, venue
Plus, I think it's fair
shut.
to say your work life's got a bit more complicated in the last
Yeah,
couple of years.
exactly. So fitting them all in did become a bit more complex.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to take a year out. It's quite a busy year at work, and then see how it goes. And Jim, who was trying at exactly the same time to put the London Tournament Series together, was quite obviously like, Tom, do you fancy like maybe at least running one? Because I was kind of hoping you'd run 2 or 3. And we had a chat about it, and I was like, look, yeah, okay, I'll at least do the Super Bowl. So I actually hadn't planned to run Borat Bowl at this point. I think this was about 6 months before I ran Super Bowl in January. I was like, I'll do the Super Bowl because at least I can do one. And like that was the point when I decided, right, I'll try and run it in the pub and see like how that goes because we've used it for the ECBBL, but we've not used it for tournaments.
Right.
And you know what? The first one, trying to get the Super Bowl off the ground was quite tricky. The manager who runs it, Nick, is very egoteric, very like chatty, good to talk to, but he's not actually a very good manager, not very organised. So initially he was like, yeah,
Imagine
don't worry.
that. Not
We'll
very
set
organised,
it
but
all
good
up.
at talking.
Exactly, it'll be fine. But then I was like, cool, can I actually book the date? You're like, yeah, here's my number. Number doesn't work. Go back the next Tuesday in person. Oh yeah, sorry, I gave you the wrong. There was quite a lot of that. And then eventually he's like, oh, I've actually told Alice, who's one of the lovely girls who works behind the bar down there with the glasses. I've now got her to be the events girl, so she's going to run all events. I was like, great, Alice, can I have a date? She was like, yeah, no worries, here's my email. And then she immediately set it all up. I was like, really easy to deal with. So now I have the in with Alice. She just sorts it all out for me. It's fine.
I always think if
I'm not
you're
being
nice but
bothered.
incompetent, hire people that are competent. And then they don't have to be nice, but things do need to still get done.
So from doing the Super Bowl was a bit complex and trickier, but then it went really well. So then running this one's actually been totally fine. I asked Alice for the date. She said this one and this one are free. Sort of all out, went in. And then the first one, they didn't let us in quite on time. I can't remember exactly why, but this one, I knocked on the door and Nick was there because he's good. He's good when he's there and opened up, let me in straight away, could set up, and that was all fine. And I think I had the same experience as you from that point. Had no problems dealing with them. It was all just done. And actually, the first one, Nick had booked the upstairs, so so Alice had already given us the whole thing. He'd given it to some of his mates, the debaters who sometimes use it, without telling her. So she was very apologetic, but we were restricted to the space. And she actually said on the day we could have spilt down into the downstairs bit, but I've been there before and I'm like, it gets a bit busy down there. So I made the call to just put us in that gym bar. It'll be fine. We fit.
Yeah, it's a very popular tourist pub because there is some sort of history to it and it's very old. So every time I went out for a break, I would find Australians, saying, "So is Sweeney Todd still here?" To which I replied he'd unfortunately retired the year before, so they'd just missed him.
And then just a quick one, actually, David, since you brought it up on the time difference, partly because of the timing, because it's a pub, and we've had to condense it. The reason it feels shorter than it used to is I've always done half-an-hour breaks, but I used to do 2.5-hour games. So it used to be 2.5-hour games, but if you finish early, you get your half-hour break plus a bit.
Yeah.
Now they're 2-hour 15 games. So
it's the way the world has gone.
You don't have the time, so that's why it feels, and it does feel tight, especially when you're organising it. I'm like, crap, trying to get it in.
I mean, as much as me wanting to, as I said, work the room and talk to, there was lots of lovely people there. Like I hadn't seen Salty Sea Wedge for ages, and that was great. I mean, luckily we played, but we also, it was just nice to spend some time with her and then see a few other faces. For example, Torquemada was there. I didn't get to spend a single minute with him, but that's my time management as well, isn't it? So yeah, maybe the timings, but finishing at a time where it's still nice to be able to go for a few drinks and get home and it not be the middle of the night is good too. So it's hard to see where you'd find that extra space. But one note from me that I didn't tell you at the time, I turned up not super early. I think you were already there, but I was outside just standing thinking, oh, they don't let us in. And one of the downstairs staff actually came open the door and said, you can come in if you want, it's fine. So they were being really, really welcoming, I thought. I just think it's a really nice venue. Okay, so we liked the venue. We liked the timings pretty much. A little bit of things to think about there, but not too much. How did the event run? From our point of view playing it, I thought it ran great. Unfortunately, Tom's computer still hates me and gave me way too challenging a draw. And whilst I did manage to win my first two games, I was table 2 for the final round, not table 1. Of the 3, I think 5 of us were on 2 wins at that point. As you were as well, weren't you, Jim?
I was, yeah.
But you hadn't made the bonus points, which we haven't talked about with the rule set, so we do need to circle back to that.
I'd made one of the 2 bonus points, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other 4 of us had made 2 wins and 2 bonus points.
Yeah.
So I don't know how Tom's laptop does it, except it sees my name and thinks, what's the most we can screw him over? And it turned out the answer was to give me Cyrits, a lovely player I've played before, and to give the other person on 2 wins and 2 bonus points, who was fairly new, a game against a visiting, and I would imagine paid for attendee at the event, the lovely Andy Davo, who was also on 2 wins and 2 draws.
He's cheaper than you might expect, actually.
Who then went on to win 5-0, rendering any result on table 2, where actually we drew, completely null and void. So how do you feel it ran? Were you happy Andy turned up? How much did that cost? Sorry, Andy P may not know. Andy Davo, who won the event.
Oh, sorry.
And I am briefly just going to prove that to everybody because we have that lovely picture. So deal with that. That's in your retinas now. That's a happy Andy Davo. You obviously won't see that when he's streaming, nor often when he's playing. But that's how Andy looks when he's just won something. So he came down to London to take our prizes, and I think he brought his partner. I was going to say to steal our women, but I think his partner came down
And
with
his
him
daughter. Yeah.
and his lovely daughter. So it was nice to see all of them, and lovely to see Andy, who I take the piss about all the time, but is genuinely a lovely bloke as well as a really, really good Blood Bowl coach. Were you happy he came? Was that part of the plan? Bring a star name in to sell the tickets?
So I
And
was
how do you
happy.
think it went?
He was a very late sign up. He signed up on Thursday, something like that. So Wednesday, Thursday. In general, and this it's not really
Do
a
you
plea. It's
post
an
a list of
observation.
who's coming to the events? Some
It's
people do,
always
don't
on
they?
Talk Knuckle. I always have the list. Not Talk Knuckle, Talk Fancy. So I always put whenever somebody pays me on PayPal, I literally take their NAF name, put it straight into Talk Fancy, and that's how I track
So
who's
he
coming to the
looked
event.
2 days before the event and thought, yeah, I could take all of them. I'll go down to London.
I reckon so. Yeah, but and this is not really it's not really a plea. It's like an observation for people who do go to events.
Mm.
It was interesting. This one, Andy David was very late sign up, but I had I think 7 or 8 of the ended up being 28. So no, 24. We were about 16 until about a week before. Loads of people signed up the weekend before, which does present challenges as an organizer when you're like trying to calculate how much to spend on trophies, like all that kind of stuff, like all of those bits and bobs. So in general, I mean, life happens, it's fine. But as a person coming to an event, it is nicer if you sign up a little bit ahead of time so that you can plan for the total numbers and make it all go smoothly. But yeah, generally once everybody was there, a slightly bigger event than I expected, but very happy for it to be actually. It ran really well. There was one round where, because of the spreadsheet system I use, I have to manually check if everybody's played each other before I then and then I just move the tables up and down one up, basically one if I have to. And there was one round where I got that wrong and somebody had played somebody else, but quickly just went, if you guys played each other, cool, let's change it. So that was fine. And then there was that one concession which would have been a challenge if it was higher up, but the fact that it was in the middle, it was interesting. It was a weird one because it could have actually affected it towards the end. And I've just not seen it from experienced tournament players before. I mean, how do you? I don't really want to talk about the actual individual who conceded, but
Sure.
in general, how do people feel about concessions? Have you seen many concessions, David, at events?
I mean, yes and no. I've seen a few because I used to go to events with a friend of mine, Mystic Pangolin, who's in the chat, Hef, you may know him as, who was struggling for a while with his Blood Bowl. So there was a couple of tournaments where he said, he noped out of it and went, actually, before this gets horrible, I'll stop now. But it tends to be, very early in the event. We talked about this on the podcast before. We don't tend to get a lot of people who, play round 1 or play round 2, or even on a 2-day, play day 1 and go, well, I'm not going to win it, so screw it, I'm going home. That doesn't seem to be the Blood Bowl ethos. And I know in some competitive games it is. I mean, I don't necessarily think Blood Bowl's competitive, but you know what I mean. So no, I think it's quite unusual. If people make the effort to go to a tournament, usually they stay through unless there's a sort of health reason or family reason not to. But also, it is a tough game. People do have mental health problems with Blood Bowl. It is very triggering to some people. You do all the right stuff and still it all goes wrong or something. It can really set you off. So I get maybe it was something like that. Let's not, if the individual
Yeah, no, and
you don't want to talk about it, let's not
Andy,
talk about it. But I don't think it's common.
I was going to ask Andy, is it something at that event, would you have considered? Because I always wonder that at NAF events, whether people think about it as an important. Because if you're playing with your mate down the pub and you get to the second half and you're 4-0 down, you go, well, screw it, I'll just concede, you win. Would you have considered conceding as a newer player, or did you realise that you wanted to play the whole game?
Okay. No, I just no, I think for me, it's I think if you're playing a game and you're, I don't know, even like you're sort of 2-0 down or 3-0 down, I'm not going to win this. I think it's etiquette that you play the game sort of through, for your opponent. And I think there are sort of, games where you sometimes feel like, you're not going to win this, and it is hard. But I think you have to think, right, actually, what's best for my sort of opponent? Because probably if you put yourself in that position where actually you are, beating your opponent, you're 3-0 up, and then if your opponent then goes, right, I'm giving up, okay, you have the game, it's not fair on your opponent. And I know it's sort of probably sort of quite it's not a nice probably position to be in, that actually you are getting absolutely sort of your ass sort of whipped. But I think it comes down to etiquette, and that you play that game through. This is sort of my point of view. That you play it through for your opponent. It's going back to sort of that game etiquette.
Yeah.
You know, when I sort of do sort of, you know, do an after school club with sort of kids, you know, doing sort of bit of sort of Warhammer and Blitzbolt and stuff like that, and they do sort of D&D. I talk a lot about sort of etiquette and sort of game etiquette, and I do sort of understand if you are losing a game quite badly, it probably can be probably sort of mentally quite hard, and for some people they probably cannot sort of continue with that game and do have to sort of concede. So I can see sort of both sort of sides of the story, or you know, point of view. But you know, for me personally, I think you know if I'm down, and I just sort of play it out from sort of my opponent, you know, and try and give them sort of the best experience. And even if you know you're losing, you go, you know what, I'm going to try and make it sort of you know, if I'm going to lose this, well, I'm going to try and make it sort of as difficult as I can. You know, if you're going to get that touchdown, I'm going to see if I can make it sort of tricky and more, you know, sort of difficult for you. And that's even like sort of yesterday at Borat Ball. You know, obviously I'm playing sort of a lot more sort of experienced people, and so I go in that mindset. Okay, yeah, I might lose this because actually you've been playing since, you know, I don't know what, third or fourth edition, or you know, the birth of sort of Blood Bowl. But if I can make it tricky for you and really sort of make you think, then in a way get a little bit of satisfaction from that, and I feel like actually I'm getting to grips with the game,
Yeah.
and beginning, you know, sort of learning of, you know, what you can do. And
One of the episodes I have planned for the future, it may even be the next one. There's a couple I've got competing for that at the moment in my head. I want to do one about what we've learned from other sports in Blood Bowl, or what we can learn from other sports. I think there's an enormous amount we can bring in from all sorts of different areas, and already have. But there's a quote that I like from tennis, and I'm always reminded of this. I had a very bad time in Harlow. I went thinking I could probably do quite well, and I really didn't. Game one went quite well. Game two, I got brutally diced by some rats. First half went fine, then they one turned, and then the second half, despite multiple sackings, they got it in, and then I just needed to do a 2+ over the line to draw. So obviously I lost that game. And in game three, I had another draw, and I was minded that it doesn't matter why you go. I don't leave the house to win Blood Bowl events. I leave the house because I want to go and play the game I love. I want to spend some time with people. I want to get away from my family. I mean, all those other good reasons that we go out, and it isn't just about being competitive. And I think for me, part of the problem at the start of the year, there were lots of issues around the whole Team England thing. I just started trying too hard. I started going to places to sort of prove things, and that's not why I've ever played Blood Bowl before. No matter what people think of me, I genuinely play Blood Bowl to have fun and enjoy playing Blood Bowl. I think if you sit down opposite me, you'll get a competitive game, but it doesn't mean that's all I'm about. And I hope most people that play me have a good time doing so and find I'm trying to do it in a good, happy spirit. And I certainly enjoyed all three games in Harlow, despite not doing very well. The quote I'm always reminded of is the famous one by Vitas Gerolaitis, who after the 18th attempt finally managed to get a win against Jimmy Connors, having lost 17 games in a row. And when he sat down at the press conference, he said, "Let this be a lesson to you. No one beats Vitas Gerolaitis 17 times in a row." And I just thought, it's perfect. You need to take your confidence, your belief, your what you're getting from something where you get it. And his sense of ego was fine. He could lose 17 games, but as long as he won the 18th, no one beat him 18 times in a row. And it really, you know, if you go to a Blood Bowl event, and this time I'm going to make sure I score in every game, or I'm going to try and get to a 50% for the tournament, or I'm going to try and, you know, they may be 2-0 up, but they're not getting that third one. Whatever it is, we can always find some pride, something to play for, something to push us on. And I firmly believe if you're trying to get better at Blood Bowl, that the more you do that, the better you're going to be prepared for a situation where it really does matter, where you're stopping them tying or winning. So I would always say just play and have fun. And if it is an event and you're brand new, you're not very likely to win round one. That's true. You might, but it's not hugely likely. But then in round two, you're not going to be playing one of the tryhards that won round one. So there's a good chance you get a more fun game and against someone with a better level of experience, more comparable. And certainly by the end of the tournament, if you are bubbling around towards the lower reaches, you're probably playing some other fun havers that have enjoyed their painting or that are new to the game or are learning as they go. And so your experience could be really different, where the first games might be tougher, but they should get more fun and more achievable as you go through a Swiss tiered event. Um, Jim, we haven't spoken to you for a while. What do you make of this as the boss, as the looker on with the responsibility to make sure everything in the London Tournament Series is up to the standards of the Ethics Board of Committees?
So I agree with pretty much everything that's been said. In the DBL, in terms of concessions, we have a rule that the only good reason for conceding a game is real life. Now that covers a few of the things you said. You can get a phone call saying your dad's been rushed into hospital, which has happened to one of our players, and you drop everything and you rush off, or it could be mental health or whatever. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's not on for me. Having a bad game experience isn't a good reason to give up. You're not only hurting your opponent potentially, you're potentially hurting the tournament standings. You might be skewing the results. You might be changing who gets most touchdowns or most CAS, or where someone else is going to come on a strength of schedule in their standings. There's lots of other things it can impact, and I think it's just wrong. And I go further. I've heard one or two other podcasts where some people talk about almost sort of soft conceding. They'll carry on playing the game, but I'm not going to do anything here. You could just try and score again,
Yeah.
and it's not right. And I'd add to a little bit. I loved what Andy said. I thought it was completely right about you can always try something different. You can always try something new. You can also learn from what your opponent's doing, and that's a great opportunity. The chances are occasionally you'll just be diced, but it doesn't happen that often. The chances are you're losing badly because someone's better than you. Well, what are they doing? What can I learn from what they've done? What would I not have thought of? What can I take into my next game? And if I don't play hard and try, I'm not going to push them to do what they're going to do, and I'm not going to learn from them. So I just think it's
I
the
think there's a
etiquette
difference
point
between
was really well made.
playing and trying hard and being a tryhard.
Yeah,
And I think
absolutely,
that's a really interesting line semantically, but also just in truth. I will try hard in any game I'm sat in front of, and for the length of the game, unless it's utterly pointless for both of us and the last two turns and nothing's going to happen. But I still don't accept the label try hard, although many people have thrown that at me. Okay, what about let's talk about these tiebreakers, because we crossed it, but we didn't cover it when we did the rule set. Tom and Bromley as well, so lots of the London tournaments have, instead of strength of schedule or most touchdowns or best hat, I stand by best hat being the ultimate tiebreaker, has gone for a series of, well, they're called all sorts of things: special plays, really stupid plays, stupid ideas that we make people do to try and separate what will obviously be three people with three wins. Um, Basically, you have to do one of 5 or 6, depending whether it's Bromley or one of Tom's, special actions during the game. Things like score within the first 4 turns, stall for 1 turn as defined by the rule set. In Bromley, you might be asked to jump over a player, or remove someone by fouling, or be sent off by fouling, or nominate a player and remove them at some point during the game. All sorts of just little sort of subplots, side quests, if you like. You've heard me talk about it before, how in Bromley, to try and have some chance, I knew the Grifflings were going to win, but to have some chance, I had to get my 3rd bonus point. So in round 16, it was to use the only one I had left that was achievable with my roster was to use a re-roll in either turn 8 or 16. So I set up a 3-die block in turn 16, and even though it was successful, re-rolled it, and it did not come up 3 skulls, so I got my bonus point before the winning 2-0 touchdown. No, the 1-0 touchdown. It would have been a draw if it failed. That's right. So I risked everything to make one of the stupid plays that Tom also uses in his rule sets. Tom, justify them before we attack them more.
So I don't think strength of schedule is particularly flawless, especially in much smaller game events. So,
Neither's democracy, Tom, but it's the best we've got.
especially in a 3-game event.
Yeah.
You know what? I've run them for. This may sound like a cop out. I've done them for so long now that I can't remember my exact reasoning for doing it way back when.
I'm not sure there could be a better reason. I love that.
I do think it was the strength of schedule. I remember being personally quite badly. No, I'm sort of thinking on the fly now, actually, but I do think like the actual thought process. I remember being quite badly burned by strength of schedule at Purley's, where I played Wolfin game day 1, and then Wolfin, and I think I actually beat him. But anyway, and then he didn't turn up for day 2, and he would have had a strong record. And then I finished instead of like, and this was relatively early on. So we all started at some point, Andy. This was relatively early on. So I was really excited. I actually thought I'd done quite well. I think I'd won like 4 games. And I would have finished like 5th. But because of my strength of schedule, I dropped down to like 12th or 3rd, like massively down the pecking order, because loads of people were on exactly the same points. The strength of schedule was a tiebreaker. And I remember taking that away and being like, that was a really unrewarding experience for me. I didn't like that.
Sure.
I'm going to do something different at my events. And so I came up with these special plays. And they have gone through certain iterations. I think there's broadly 3 that are better for agility teams and 3 that are better for bashy teams.
Yep.
Pick them and do them. I say very clearly at the start of the event, this is the first tiebreaker. Make sure you do them. If you don't do them, you probably will not win the event. So if you're brand new, like make sure you focus on it. If not, then that's fine. You don't have to. And it just, you're right. It just gives you something to think about and something to go for to try and differentiate them. But it's not perfect for sure.
Nothing is in this life except my partner. She is. She tells me that regularly. Jim, I heard earlier that you subtly hinted you're not a huge fan.
Yeah, I accept the point that no system's perfect, particularly in a small tournament, but it's one of those where you're creating a new set of rules. You're making it more complicated for people who don't do this all the time. It's it's something else to think about. It's something else to do, and it's something else that's a little bit. It can be down to the luck of the dice. So if I take my experience in this tournament, I played Wood Elves in round 1 and thought, well, that's a great opportunity to get 2 Cas. I knocked a lot of Wood Elves down. In fairness, my opponent knocked quite a lot of Slan down. It was turn 15 before either of us got a single KO. There were 22 players on the pitch until turn 15. I must have had 20 Wood Elves on the floor at some point or another in the course of that game and did not do a single Cas. You feel a little bit robbed when something like that happens. And I was never going to win the. I was
Can I
never
just
going
say
to
on
win the
behalf of the whole
tournament.
DBL, play better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was never going to win the whole tournament, but in a sense, what it robbed me is actually the chance to play someone like you, Dave, who I've not had the pleasure yet, or to play Andy Davo, and to be up there. And I'd have probably absolutely got slaughtered in those games because it would have been someone who knows Slan and what they're doing better than I do, and then and are better players.
I think you're a decent player. I'm not sure it'd be that easy.
I'm all right. No, it wouldn't be easy, but I'd have given you a game. But yeah, exactly. But it would have been a different experience. So look. I don't hate it. It's very, very clear in the pack. It's up front. Don't go to the tournament if you don't like it. So I'm not complaining about it. It's just not the way I do it.
Yeah, I'm on 2 stools here. I'm going to be, annoyingly for me, somewhat liberal. I don't utterly hate them. They've cost me many times. Down in Bromley, notably, the time I cheated and took Morgan's Skitter and Snotlings, I could only get 2 of the bonus plays because they just didn't have a team that could do another one of them, really. So that did limit me, and I came second. And then the next time I took a proper team, Kemry. And although I got all 3 bonuses, I was outscored. And as I said, I did have to risk quite a lot to get the 3rd bonus. So that time it felt fun. But because it was the major tiebreaker, and the second one was not strength of schedule, it was touchdowns, the Griff flings just destroyed me on touchdowns. So I've had upsides and downsides to it. I do find it interesting to look each time and at the challenge. But I have to say, at least half the games I've played in one of Tom's tournaments, you're supposed to sort of have a card face down. The cards haven't existed for about 4 years now. And then flip it at the start of the game simultaneously to say what the 2 of you are going to challenge. It's, on average, I would say, roughly between turn 2 and 3 when me and my opponent discuss what our challenges are and usually decide it then. I think it's less often that I've done it pre-game than it's happened during the first few turns. We've almost always forgotten. One of us has gone, oh, hang on, what fucking bonuses are we going for? Oh, all right, what ones have I done? Okay, I guess that one. And that's gameable. I could be looking and thinking, okay, what's the game state? Which one am I picking? Really, it's just panic and lack of preparation on my part. I like them and I don't like them. Andy, you're new. How did it feel to you? You've heard the arguments why and why not, and someone in the middle. What did you make of it?
I think for all 3 of our games, I think we got to where turn 2, turn 3 went. It was that oh shit, we got to choose something, haven't we? So it was, but it's sort of interesting. From if I go back to sort of Guild Ball, from sort of where I sort of came from, you didn't have something like sort of that. It just adds a little bit of extra flavour sort of to the game. It's an extra challenge, and I think from like a new person's, from sort of a newbie to the game, it is it's something else sort of to keep in mind and sort of to think about. So it can sort of, it's like, oh shit, I've got to do this, while trying to keep in, at the beginning of the game, right? Okay, what's that sort of pre-game sort of sequence and stuff. But it just adds a bit of extra sort of flavour to the game.
I mean, it should be special
so
play, weather, fans, who decides.
Yeah,
that should be the order, shouldn't it? But it just doesn't.
And
seem to
every
be.
game is then sort of slightly sort of different in a way, and it sort of just sort of mixes things up a bit more. But yeah, no, I sort of found it sort of quite interesting.
And I do quite like the psychology of saying to someone, "Yeah, I'm going to score in the first 4 turns," or "Yeah, I'm going to win at least 2-0."
Yeah, or you go. I think and I remember I was trying to work out, trying to remember which ones I took. But it was like first game was sort of casualties. So being sort of Nurgle, being bashy, and but I mean that, and you're just relying on sort of basically lady luck of the dice.
You are variance, but also, as we pointed out to Jim, coaching. If you set up better, you get more hits, and therefore you're more likely to cause those casualties.
Yeah. But,
Sorry, I'm just taking the piss there, because I can't just take the piss out of Tom, or people will complain.
Oh,
no one will complain about that.
Well, I mean, he will, but no one else.
No one will listen to him. It's fine.
I have to say, if it makes any of you feel better, in my very first game, I got completely coached out of it by my opponent, where I went for the target a player and kill that player. And he scored in 2 and then put his player in the reserve spots for the entirety of the rest of the game. So
Brilliant.
I could not get it.
Brilliant.
Which I was like, that's excellent. I like that.
That is fantastic. You should have put it on someone he couldn't not field, possibly.
Yeah.
So I think the jury's a little out on those, and it's entirely up to you. I have to say, if you did ever move to tour play, they do have the ability to put special plays in.
Oh, do they? Okay.
So you can have a little box where you tick it to say, yes, I got my bonus, and it doesn't restrict you in what that bonus is. It just asks if you've got it. So that can be automated if people want to use tour play and do a similar sort of thing.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course, anytime.
What's the sort of argument against sort of using sort of tour play for a tournament, out of interest? Because I mean, we did the league at sort of Welling, sort of we used sort of tour playing, and I sort of found it really great.
You've now been to 3 tournaments that haven't used it.
You can sort of see, you see the league sort of progressing in your team and stuff like that, and there's no need for sort of paper.
As a massive fan of it,
someone new, it seems something like a really sort of great tool, and I just find sort of there must be obviously an argument for sort of not using it. I was just out of interest,
Jim,
wondering
why.
In
on top before we turn to Tom for the answer.
As a massive fan of it, I can give you a couple of reasons why you could argue against it. One is cost. It can be expensive to run tournaments. It's it's an extra £1 a player or whatever it is roughly. It adds up, so it's a cost and a burden. 2, depending on where you're playing, Wi-Fi and connectivity. If you've not got that, it's not a very good system. Let's be honest. You need to know that that's guaranteed, and you need to know it's going to work. And 3, and Dave touched on this earlier, you're relying on people having a phone that's going to work all day and thought about having brought chargers or power banks or something else. So once you're in the habit of it, it's great. But those 3 all count against it to some degree for me.
I did originally, being old, find the interface a bit bewildering and a little too modern for me. You just go on there and there's sort of pictures thrown up at you everywhere. But if you're persistent and patient and not entirely stupid, it is reasonably intuitive. I have found my way into using it now, and I do use it for the tournaments that use it. I'm a bit more on the fence about it personally. I think it can be a useful tool, but I do see some of its limitations. And I do particularly, I want to talk about this too, do particularly like that Tom does seem to put some thought and effort into his prizes. And if it withdrew from that, or was a worry financially for TOs, then I guess that might be one of the resistances. Tom, how do you feel?
Yeah, with the tour play, I mean, I don't know if you heard, Andy, you did cut out for a little bit, but I talked a little bit before about I had a bad experience running a big event where I used to use another system called Score, which was one that talks directly to NAF, where you upload all the results. And that crashed in the second game of an event. So I had to produce a spreadsheet on the fly, figure out what the results were for the first game, and then get it going. And having had that one experience as a TO, I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to use my spreadsheet. And now having run so many events, like Tour, and also for me, Andy, as well, Tour Play's coming quite late. So, I mean, Tour Play, I probably would have run about 15 of my now 19 events when Tour Play came in. So it's come in now. It seems great, and people who are using it, fantastic. I have a spreadsheet that works really well, and I'm very happy with it.
But
and
your spreadsheet hates me, and Torplay doesn't.
And also PC doesn't like it, so keeping that's even more reason for me to.
100% is. One day, me and that laptop are having a meeting with a canal.
There is one other drawback as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is true, Jinx. We're talking about the Pearlies. You can't put some of the more complex rule sets into it. Is that right? So it wouldn't have accepted 4-act roll, or would it?
It doesn't have an Iamanji setting, no.
But also for my mutations, I probably couldn't use it, could I?
You're probably right. Yeah, I've not tried to do something that extreme.
I think putting the mutations on might have been tricky. You might have to have said, "Look, build without the mutations, and then we'll decide the mutations on the day, or print a roster and we'll add them on by hand or whatever." So there would still have needed to be a workaround for that. I'm definitely not wedded to it. Something else that interested me. Let's talk about this. You're not a fan of the Highlander rule for prizes, are you, Tom?
I am not a fan of the Highlander rule.
So, Jim, as his boss, do you think that tournaments should be giving out as many prizes to as many people as possible? I also noticed I didn't get any free dice for turning up, nor a hand-printed dugout or any of the other nice things Tom's done in the past.
I think every TO is amazing and puts loads of time and effort into it and should be allowed to do whatever they like.
100%.
But I much prefer Highlander. I think the more people that get something, the more they're likely to get excited about the possibility of doing it, the more they're likely to come back, and the more you share the love and I just prefer it. But I don't feel particularly strongly about it.
Okay. Andy, did you notice that the same individual won, I think, second place and most casualties?
I did, yes. At Borat Ball,
Do you think that was good?
I don't know. I don't think. I think it just sort of went over my head in a way. I don't think.
Let me pull this up. This is how everyone...
I think by the prize, sort of the end of the day, my brain was absolutely sort of fried. I think for them to concentrate for 3 games, I think it must have been like steam or smoke coming out of my ears because it worked so hard.
As you've chosen not to put your NAF name on screen, I'm not going to out you. You can say it if you wish. But at the moment, anyone that's looking at the visuals of this, the only other thing I've shown is that picture of Andy Davo winning, which if you're not watching, if you're just listening, trust me, he looked very happy. This is the finishing of the 26 people involved in the event. Of those 26, I will tell the audience you did not finish bottom. Therefore, you missed out on the wooden spoon. However, that may have been something that was on your radar. Did you know that the bottom player at events usually gets an award called the wooden spoon? Would you have been happy to be the recipient of it, or are you proud to have avoided it? Do you think it should exist?
No, when I did a couple of sort of like Guild Ball tournaments, and so I've got my wooden spoons upstairs in a drawer. I won one with sort of plastic wooden spoon with googly eyes, and an actual wooden spoon.
To the fun of the event.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't. Yeah, it's quite. Again, I think when I go to a tournament, or when I just sort of play a game, whether it's sort of Blood Bowl 40k or I play just for fun. It's for me, it's escapism. It's escapism from work. It's escapism from sort of family life.
Yeah,
so when I'm playing a game, it's this is what I'm focused on. So everything that's going on in my life is pushed to one side, and I'm just sort of focusing on a game and having fun rolling dice and trying to not roll, in terms of Blood Bowl. Oh, let's not rolling those skulls.
No,
I agree with almost everything you've said tonight, Andy, but I cannot accept that people play 40k for fun.
Oh no, yeah, no. I think that's part of the reason. I think
we all know people play 40k.
40k was just not for me.
It's grim and dark, and it's about a world where no one's nice, just like my world, because my mum doesn't understand me. That's why people play 40k.
But no, I like.
They're all 13.
But yeah, no. sort of getting a wooden spoon, just sort of have it like with like GriffCon yesterday. It is sort of getting that little small token. I'm not having a dig at Tom because I don't go like didn't go to like
Really, the
Borat
theme of the night. Go for it.
But to get that, to get a dice and that sort of the 3D printed, what do we get, like a Chucky Snotlin? I think I got him in my little bag. Was quite nice. And
Firstly, I want to talk
up
Tom's prize support because he gives things like this. I didn't get this from Tom. I got this at another event. I didn't ever realise I wanted to win a most casualty until by complete accident, without even knowing it, I weirdly did. But I got quite a nice little trophy for it, which I quite like. And I do think Tom gives very nice trophies out. Most people do. But I didn't get anything for going. There was no prize just for turning up. And at Griff Bowl yesterday, I don't know if you noticed, when they gave the Star Wars, whatever that one's called, Shattered Lives.
Shatterpoint tournament they were doing.
There were 18 players and they gave 18 people awards. So they started with the bottom 9 and they all got, instead of a sort of a rival gift, they all got a big pack of dice and a thank you for coming award. And then everyone else got a prize. So literally everyone that turned up, walked up, got a round of applause and got a prize. Tom, you gave all the prizes to about 3 people. Jim, are we sanctioning that? No?
It's better than giving everyone a prize.
Okay. Is it, though? Because in the modern world, I mean, I want a prize for coming, frankly. I mean, I bet you Andy was on a ride, and if he didn't win, he was getting his bus fare home or something. Tom, defend your decision to give someone more than one prize.
So,
Send
and this
others
is
home empty-handed.
This is completely honest. When I first started running events, I took it over kind of on the fly, really. They used to be ran, they were called the Hard Six Super Bowls originally, and they're run by the Hard Six podcast. So Jay and Adam used to run them.
Yep.
And then the very first Super Bowl I ran was in, and it was in, actually, we played at one of them. I remember us playing PC. That we played at the one where we had to finish early.
Yes.
Anyway, that's another story. But anyway, Jay eventually moved to Manchester very suddenly, actually. So he'd already arranged a Super Bowl. Adam couldn't quite commit to it, and it was kind of a bit like, can anybody help? And I was like, I'll do it. Like, I'll turn up and try and run the event. Never done it before, having played in a couple of them. So I just ran the event and was like, you know what, I quite enjoy this. And then I transitioned it into Rule Zero, Magic Madhouse, and it has become what it's become now. But I didn't realise that people did the Highlander rule, to be honest. And I'm presuming, and I can't remember this actually, I'd have to go back and look through. I'm presuming probably at my early events, it was broadly mixed. It probably was mostly first, second, third. Other people had touchdowns and casualties because nobody really pointed it out to me until I went to Pearlie's, and I was like, hang on a minute, like, didn't he get first? And I was like, oh my god, like, that's what you're supposed to do. And I just didn't realise, and I had never done it myself. And I kind of just stuck to my guns. And one of the reasons was very early on at Super Bowl 7, that wasn't the 7th I'd run, but was the 7th total Super Bowl. So it's probably my second Super Bowl, I'm going to say. And I might send this picture to you later in the chat. But that is a picture of Phil, or Avec Montage, who's an old DBLer, winning with halflings, and not like not crazy star halflings. He had 2 stars, and they were both halfling stars. I can't remember which they were, but like a solid halfling team.
He loved the Rumbelow.
He had the Rumbelow bill. Won the event, most Cas, most touchdowns, and best paint, like every single trophy. And I was like, this is fucking incredible. And just like Phil standing there with all his trophies and that picture and that moment, everybody was like fair play. Like halflings winning everything, including the best painted, was just like actually a really special moment. So I think
best
cool.
painted, it's kind of okay for people to win alongside everything else. But I think the in-play awards, I mean, some people do use Highlander, some people don't. I think I slightly prefer Highlander. I just like more people getting prizes. I think that's good. Even if we are moving a bit towards, well done, thank you for coming, here's your award.
I have to say I have mixed it up as well. There was an occasion when I think somebody had come second, and then like Josh and Minimorg had sort of got just below the most, so I gave it to him. Kind of, I've done a few little mix and matches, but I'm the TA, right? I kind of do that, and people know.
So you'll break your rules for a cute child, but not for a friend.
But not you, PC.
I understand. There is a story I've told before where the only reason I don't have a best stunty award, I went to one of the London tournaments and I went 2-2-0 with goblins. I was very, very happy. But unfortunately, someone went 3-1-0 with flings the same day, won the event with that record, and was also given best stunty. And I did feel if you win the entire tournament, you don't need the best stunty award. But truth to be told, I was the second best stunty at that event. So
There you go.
ultimately, I'm not 100% against it. And particularly if you've won an event with Flings, you go home with an armful of trophies. I don't think anyone can really complain about you doing that. Look, we are running out of time. I really hate these going much over 2 hours. So I just want to talk about next what we've learnt from Borak Bowl. What are we taking away or doing differently next time? It can be about your roster, how you run it, whether you'd turn up again, anything you want to say. Or, of course, as the manager, things you're going to tell Tommy needs to do differently or improve in the future. So what would we do differently with Borak? I'll start you off to give you a bit of thinking time, as this is one of the last 2 questions. The last one will obviously be anything else you want to say before we wrap up, and then we'll wrap up and go home. What was my learnings from Borak? I really enjoyed coaching the Vampires. Vargeists are as terrible as I thought they were, and even with Iron Hardskin, it was still completely terrible. It did get through a bit of work because they're very good big guys, and it did hold up a lot of people, but it meant that if I lost any vampires, I was suddenly had too few vampires. Because if you're starting with 5, then if you get knocked down to 4, you're really going to struggle to do some of the stupid stuff that vampires can do. So I don't think I'd ever run a Vargeist again. That's my learning. And once again, despite thinking for 5 years, I really ought to take a proper elf team to Borak Bowl. Once again, I talked myself out of it at the last minute. And if I come again, I absolutely swear next time it's going to be an elf team. It really, genuinely,
I don't believe you.
probably is. Unless it isn't. But I wasn't alone. The number of people saying, oh, I'm going with a tentacles tree. I don't recall seeing one on the day. People go, oh yeah, I'm going to bring Eldril. He's allowed. You hardly ever get to use him. He gets a reroll on his Hypno cheat now. It's ridiculous. I don't recall seeing Eldril. So I'm not the only one that has a plan and then always just does something else at the last minute. That's my big learning from Borak. Don't just do elves like I always say I should. And that's what I'm telling myself. Jim, what's your big learning, your big takeaway, or your final message from it to yourself?
So 2 quick ones. I learned in the wider context that we can run really successful events in pubs rather than dedicated gaming spaces, and I think that's great for us in the London scene and gives us more opportunities to do more and more of that.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of my build, I should have stuck to my guns. I think I was planning on taking Anki Panky and backed out of it and took an extra player and a Croxagore instead. I think Anki Panky would have been more fun, probably more effective. Would have given me a little bit more control and a few more options on the blitz and so on. So if I was rebuilding the roster, that's probably all I'd change. It was otherwise pretty solid. Enjoyed it.
Okay.
It's good fun.
Andy, what's your personal learnings for yourself? What are you taking away from Borak?
Maybe let's go for maybe orcs or humans. let's sort of move away from sort of the Nurgles. And maybe try and play a better team, or a team that comes sort of standard with sort of more skills. I mean, that's the thing with Nurgle. They're sort of slow. They don't come.
They have
Sort of
absolutely
come with a
nothing
lot.
useful for playing Blood Bowl out of the box.
Whereas, a lot of other teams, you're starting off. Your basic team is starting off with much more. Looking into that. If there's another Borak bowl, yes, I would. Absolutely, sort of really enjoyed it. And also, I think what the other thing I've sort of come away from is about not being afraid of sort of playing in tournaments and not being afraid of sort of NAF and that I think I got it into my head that this NAF is sort of this almost like secret society or something. It's very sort of like of sort of Blood Bowl players that sort of very competitive, and it's not. And yeah, you've got competitive players within that, and extremely good players.
There's absolutely no
but
secret
actually
rituals
really,
until you reach Jib's level.
Yeah, but it's sort of really welcoming. Great sort of set of people, and I'm going to certainly sort of enter more and sort of play more.
Were absolutely the inspiration behind this episode, and one of the reasons that made me absolutely certain I wanted to do it was that I noticed you'd said in the Discord you were a bit concerned about coming to your first NAF event, and lots of people have replied, and I tried to be really positive and make you feel reassured. I hope that worked.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I've sort of heard about sort of the NAF, and even sort of when Guild Ball was being struck off the list by Steamforge, the NAF was sort of the inspiration for the Guild Ball community project, to keep the game sort of alive, because I mean that's what happened to
That's what we did for
sort
10
of,
years.
sort of Blood Bowl,
Yeah.
and so it's just me sort of got into my head, it's this almost like this sort of elitist of sort of it's at least sort of Blood Bowl player. It's not.
Just people that turn up and play Blood Bowl.
It's just people who
I mean, we did have Andy Davis, so we did have the elite of Blood Bowl there.
The creme de la creme. This group of people that love playing Blood Bowl, and and it's just sort of welcoming, and certainly will sort of play more and get get more sort of stuck in when I can, and if sort of Tom does another Borat Ball, I'll do. Yeah, I'll go for it.
I'm sure he will, if he's not required by his country for other needs. Did you, just in passing, Andy? Did you manage to get within a few feet of Andy Davis? Did he speak? Did he look?
No, I think it was the other side of the room.
Yeah.
To be honest, I hadn't got a clue who he was. To be honest. No, and I think it's only this evening. It's only this.
There we are, everyone. We found the person in Blood Bowl that doesn't know who Andy Davis is. What a marvellous point to end the show on.
I do now,
of course.
So.
Well, don't we all? Tom, let's come finally to you then. This wasn't supposed to be a brutal beat up of you, and I do want to say, mate, that not only do you run a fine tournament, which is why I try and turn up if I can, but you're a much valued member of the London community. You put your money and your ass out there, and you run tournaments, and you make them happen, and they run really, really well. There's always a good atmosphere. So while I'll always take the piss, because that's who you are and who I am, I do want to at one point say genuinely, I really enjoy your tournaments, and a huge thank you from me to the lots of fun time you've given me playing Blood Bowl. So that said, what, if anything, are you taking away from your Borak experience this year?
Well, two things, and the second one's probably chimes quite well with what you said. Firstly, I think the pack works. I think I'm going to take a pretty similar pack away from the next year, and I'm probably the next thing I'm going to do is look at tiers and do tiering properly. And I think if I do a very similar thing, but actually tier the teams properly, that could balance a bit better. But broadly, going to stick with the you can stack mutations, build your own staff thing. But I was broadly happy with that. The venue works, so this was like a sort of second trial, if you will. I've tried 2 events now, quite happy that the venue works. And overall, I think what I've taken away from it is that I still want to do this, which is good. I didn't think I did a year ago, so having done 2 events, venues worked, enjoyed people coming, it's been quite easy. And actually, it was interesting talking about stuff that you've not had probably this year at recent events. Like I used to do more things like custom dugouts, and I have had runs of like Talk Knuckle Dice Run in the past, and cards, for example. I was actually looking at doing cards like a year ago, and then I hit the wall of like, I'm not going to run any more events, so I didn't. So I'm going to take all that away. I'm going to produce cards. You've heard it here first. Next Super Bowl there will be cards because also it needs to be done. So yeah, the key takeaway is I'm very happy.
Laminate them and collect them in at the end of the event. You won't have to redo them every time.
Exactly, and that is the plan. Yeah, that's totally the plan. But yeah, it will be 6 months now. So, and I seem to have become the Pearlies organizer as well, which I'm sure Jim and I will talk about in the future, and Bart and the other guys. But I'm probably going to be doing that again next year. So I think it's probably going to be.
Feel free to chat to me about how terrible that rule set was and how it should change. I was joking a bit about the gifts. Interestingly, I went to Griff Bowl, as we said yesterday. We were given one little snotling figure, which obviously I don't paint and can't paint, so I will try and give that away. And 1 D6. Now, either don't give me D6 or give me a pair. Even people that give me 2 oddly coloured dice and say these are a pair, no, they're not. Make your dice one thing, please. And certainly don't give me 1. So I went to the tournament organizer and said, look, if I give you 2 One World, One Blood Bowls, can I have another one of your dice, please? So I have a pair. So we did a deal. So I may be the only person that walked away with 2 Griff Bowl dice. I also know other players, famously Purple Goo, friend of the show and lovely, lovely player. He's always said that he thinks there's too many dice, that we've all got these bags of plastic sat in our drawers that we don't use. It's terrible for the environment. Why are we still giving dice away? Which is why when I ran the Barbarians team, I did beer koozies. I didn't think anyone had done that before. So maybe there is a case that we don't need a free gift. Perhaps spend that money on nice prizes or on a good venue or whatever. Maybe we don't all need a prize just for showing up. I don't know. But I did notice we didn't get one. Just saying. Okay, this is now the end. We do have to stop. We all have lives, and this has gone on too long. So this is that moment where just before we all say goodbye, I'm going to ask if there's anything you want to say that I haven't covered, or you're surprised we haven't mentioned, or just that you want to say to the 2 or 3 people that have got this far through and are still listening. We will start with the lovely Jim. Salontiger, as you're known to many. Anything you wish to say to the world?
Yeah, very, very slightly tangential, but it is on, picking up on Tom doing a good job and TOs. Have a go at being a TO. The Blood Bowl world doesn't exist without people running tournaments. It's not as hard as it sounds. There are plenty of people out there who will support you, who've done it before, who will tell you what happens. So if you're that way inclined and think it might be for you, just drop one of us a line, ask, and we'll help you and we'll support you and we'll make it happen, because that's how we all get these opportunities to get together and have fun and play games. So yeah, Tom does a great job. Others do. We always need a few more.
Absolutely. Tom, anything finally you want to say to the world of Blood Bowl?
No, I've kind of said it all. The only thing is that there is a gap next year for my events. Usually Super Bowl is in January. Because I'm away, it will be like around April, May, and then I'll do the rest of the events at the back end of the year. But hopefully I'll be around for the back end of the year, so I'll be able to run them
If
all
Jim
then.
lets you, because he's obviously going to have a stranglehold on which weekends everybody gets for their events.
That's true. Good point. I'll try and submit my rosters ahead of time. Sorry, my rules pack ahead of time. We'll see.
Andy, do you have any final wisdom or words for the world?
Well, first I just want to thank Tom for sort of organising Borak and sort of being so sort of welcoming and also just to everyone I've sort of met, sort of well in and sort of at sort of the few tournaments I've been, just thank you for sort of being welcoming. Thank you for being patient with a new player. Just having fun, and thank you.
I mentioned him earlier, but didn't name him. We also have the lovely Chicken23 in the chat, who I've talked to you about. Lives up in St Albans and often turns up on the London scene, so he's quite near you and I as well. He did similar to you. He did his first year entirely with Black Orcs, and we were all saying, look, just coach something that can play Blood Bowl. And he has now gone slightly wider and has enjoyed it more. But he's now an incredibly good Black Orc and Goblin coach. So there is some learning in just sticking in one zone and learning the game that way. But I think the 2 of you would also get on. So he's not very far from us in St Albans. And I believe has run his first event as well. Is a tournament organizer now as well as a player. Look, normally I do a Jerry Springer bit here where I talk for far too long and everyone gets annoyed by my winding things up. Really, I just wanted to have a look at a tournament from every perspective. We let them go by, we have a good time or we don't. And then we talk about, how did it go for us? What was our dice like? And I'm not really sure I care. But what I am interested in is, do we actually look at tournaments sometimes and say, okay, I mean, I'm sure TOs do, but do they get feedback from players? Do we get holistic, really looking at an event and say what works, what doesn't, what's strong and what doesn't? I hope that wasn't, a surprise to you, Tom, that that's what we're doing tonight. I hope you found it useful, interesting, and it wasn't too much of a beatdown. It certainly wasn't intended to be. We all very much enjoyed your event. And in a world where there's a load of Blood Bowl around now, and a load of events, 1 or 2 have struggled for numbers. Some are still, overbooked and sold out way in advance. But perhaps we just shouldn't take the players as casually. We should try and make sure we're putting a good Blood Bowl event out there that people are genuinely enjoying. And maybe that means getting some feedback, doing a survey, or just asking some people what they thought. I hope if you are either a player or a tournament organizer, this has been useful for you to think about. That's it from us for tonight. If everyone could wave, it just helps me find it in the edit. We will all say goodbye. Thank you for your company. That was One World, One Blood Bowl, number 65. We'll be back soon. Okay, so that's